Comic Clan, and welcome to Comics of the Cross, the greatest streamers you have never heard of. I, of course, am one of your hosts for today, Cross, sitting alongside my partner in crime, Nitro, the other half of the dynamic duo of Twitch. How are you doing today, Nitro?
I'm good, bro. How are you, man?
Doing good, doing good.
Feels
Glad
like
to be
it's a long
back
time
here.
since we've had a chill stream on a Sunday before.
Yeah, man. Well, to be fair, we've had a lot of Sundays off recently. We've had a lot of Sundays off between different things going on, different holidays, different special events, and then like nearly dying from sickness for that lasted quite a while. So can I just mouth off here for a minute here to Chunk, who's mouthing off in chat?
He's definitely mouthy. He's mouthy.
It's like, this man is like, if you've got the chart of like good, neutral, and evil, he is chaotic evil.
Chaotic evil.
This man, when we were doing
Elmo in front of a fire evil.
when we were doing the adventure for Sea of Thieves on Friday night, was sailing with us, put a banana on the stovetop, which you can cook food in the game, and if you leave it there, eventually it'll burn and set a fire to your ship. Thankfully, Seal found it when he saw smoke before the ship burnt down. Seal then asked who did it. I didn't do it.
No, he didn't deny it.
Space Hawk didn't do it. And Chunk the Hut apparently didn't do it either. To the point of we were searching a ship, literally cutting at wooden barrels in case somebody had that hide barrel emote where you can't see them, and we're hiding on our ship because we just had a clash with somebody not too long ago and we thought somebody tried to come on board.
Oh no.
Thinking somebody was on our ship and had tried to burn us down. And then, like, after we get off stream, he freaking comes in the Discord and goes, "Oh, by the way, it was me that did the banana." And I'm like, so apparently we were right to put Junk in the brig during Friday night stream. And if he comes on the next time we play, he's going to go straight in the brig.
Yeah, confession time. I cooked the banana.
Yeah, like, he admitted it, and I'm like, why? We're in the middle of an adventure. You're just lucky we weren't going for like a freaking vault or something. You know what I mean? Sure. It's like, if we were going for like a vault with all this treasure and he tried to like cook a banana or something, you're lucky it was an adventure.
Did you have treasure on the ship?
Not that much, thankfully. Because
okay.
we were doing the adventure, so there's not that much treasure to get. It's like, no, you only cook bananas in the stove and Sea of Thieves. It's like... Yeah, and he put a banana as well, which of course banana's meant to be the thing you use if you want to burn down someone else's ship, because it catches fire quick.
I did not know that. It's good to know though.
So it's like, so Chunk just tried to burn our ship down as fast as possible. So, yeah, so that's how Sea of Thieves went on Friday, so thank you, Chunk.
So just know every time he plays, there's going to be an attempt on your life.
Yeah, just... literally trying to work out stuff and he's like throwing bombs at me again. Like, I know we do stuff like that to be stupid, to do it for fun. Like, Chunk is like, it's getting maniacal at this point when Chunk's doing Sea of Thieves. It really is.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could have been there. That's hilarious. Chunky said he exploded all the barrels before he could get to them.
I think he got like one eventually. Although it was so funny, I blew one up on the island, and then I literally grabbed one up and was running to the ship, went, Chunk, look what I got! Lit it and dropped it and ran away, so he started coming towards the island thinking he was going to get it, and it blew up before he got there.
Dude, that's so jacked up. He probably deserved it for the banana though.
Yeah. There we go.
Oh my gosh.
My cup of tea in chat, of course, is my lovely wife Jay saying, "Sure, Chunk the Hut, we believe you. Hashtag brigged."
Yes. Hashtag brigged.
But anyway, it is good to be back with a good proper podcast, because I was here recently. I got to do it with Law, but I feel like getting to sit down with you, we've not had a chance to do this.
Dude. We haven't had a chill stream, like you said before we started. We were talking about we haven't had a chill stream in a really long time.
It's been a while. It's been a while since we just got a chill hang it. I mean, because we've got some big stuff coming up for the podcast in the next couple of weeks. We've got some big interviews set up. We've got the review of Thor: Love and Thunder coming up in the next couple of weeks. So it's like, it's nice just to have a little chill stream.
Yeah, man.
So we're going to be hanging out and we're going to be talking comics today. Pretty much.
I got a whole stack of them right here we're going to talk about.
I got a bunch off to the side as well, so we're going to go through a bunch of these and just, tell you what we've been reading.
Basically, we're going to kind of go over the ones that we've read this year that we really... Not necessarily dug. Maybe some we didn't. Maybe some we did.
Yeah, but be honest, like, if we've enjoyed stuff, we'll tell you. If we've not enjoyed stuff as much, or there's little issues with it, we'll tell you. But for the most part, I've not read I've not read anything bad. Some stuff,
yeah, I would agree.
stuff has not been maybe quite what I was expecting it to be. It was maybe a little bit of a letdown from the build for some stuff, but
Yeah.
for the most part, stuff was either like good and enjoyable or like really good.
As I was so we had been talking about doing this episode for like a week, and I started pulling stuff off my shelf that I had read this morning, and I'm like, dang, I read a lot this year.
You have your stack's way bigger than mine. It's like,
Well, and to be fair, like I know we've had this conversation before, but I need to catch up on a lot of like the historical great runs that I've missed over the years.
Yeah.
So that's basically me is like reading a backlog of stuff that people have already read.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that I read is that.
I also don't want to pull the disability card, but like my ADHD just makes me like so hard to actually sit there and read stuff.
Oh, agreed.
Like to actually
Agreed.
sit and like focus on stuff. So it's like, so the fact I've got through what I'm very proud, because it used to get to a point where I could not get through like a page.
Yeah.
Like I would sit and have to reread stuff. So like I did not bad considering.
Yeah.
Like I've got like, you know, attention span of like squirrel, you know.
So like I normally read right before I go to bed. So on my nightstand, I will have at any given time like 3 or 4 comics with different bookmarks in them, and I've
See,
run out
that's
of
the other
bookmarks.
difference as well. Is like I'm very much a clinical. If I'm reading a book, I'll read that to start to finish. Unless we're doing a book for
okay.
like indie comic book club,
Mhm.
and I'll have to interrupt to like go over something.
Yeah.
I'll generally like I read a book and I'll go through the next book, and it's like I don't like the. It's the same when I'm watching TV shows. Like I like to try and binge stuff if I'm watching, because I get invested in something. I don't like to interrupt the flow. I think because it takes me so long to get into the flow of something, like I don't like the prospect of like, oh, okay, I'm going to leave this book and go over here.
Yeah.
Because like, you're telling me like you sat and like binged through like the Transformers omnibus, and I'm like, dude, you've got like 3 comics sitting there that you've started before this that you've not finished yet. Like, how are you doing this?
Dude, it's so bad because I've run out of bookmarks. So I'm like tearing pieces off of like random pages that I'm finding and putting them in the books. I have like tissues in a book. It's bad. Hey Tom, what's up, man?
Tom Levine, my wireless is terrible today. Oh, sorry to hear that, Tom. Thank you for stopping in though. If you're able to hang out, we'd love to have you hang and chat. If you can't because of connection troubles, no worries, sir. No worries at all. But before we delve into comics today, we've been chatting a little bit about a little bit of news. I think this one has to be mentioned. And amazingly, it's not an Ezra Miller story.
Uh-oh.
Because, you know, that they've been like constantly and frequently. It's actually a different story apart from why the Flash movie's not happening anymore. And
Well, they say it's still happening regardless because they've invested too much money in it.
oh yeah, I know that's happening. But like, it feels like literally every other day there's an Ezra Miller story of like, and it's literally becoming like, what has he done this week?
Yeah, I know.
But we're not talking about Ezra Miller this week for once. We're going to be actually talking about the upcoming Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie.
Yes.
Because we got to get a few little pictures of that, and one of the images that was released, which I will say this is not officially being confirmed by Marvel or Disney yet. I just want to put that out there. A lot of stuff is looking like it is going to be official, and that this is an official image, but they haven't confirmed it yet, so it's still technically speculation. Is that we got an image of Namor, the Submariner, who is, if he is in this definitely, which it looks like he is, I'm glad, because for a while they were back and forth on whether or not he was actually going to be like, oh, he's the big bad for it, oh, maybe not, there might be issues, or maybe he is, so this could be a confirmation that we're definitely getting Namor. And his look's very interesting, as I knee my table, because they've gone for a very kind of Aztec styling to him, to like, because there's an image of him where it's just like him wearing these kind of general clothes, but like there's Aztec symbols, and the belt buckle especially has got Aztec on it. And then there's another one where it's like him in like full headdress gear and all this stuff of like, you know, like an Aztec warrior like sort of look to him.
I'll be honest. So, like, I read a little bit of the backstory as far as the change and what they've done, and like on the surface, I'm digging it. The way he looks, I think he looks BA. I think he looks awesome. And I think it'll come across on the film really cool. I get why they did it. Part of it was to differentiate from, you know, Aquaman already exists. Let's be honest, Namor is very similar to Aquaman, even though I think Namor came first.
Oh yeah,
very similar.
So far in advance, like Namor's been around way longer.
Yeah, so having them both on screen, both being from Atlantis and both kind of looking similar, I get it. I get why they changed it. I'm down for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't have an issue with it because it's going to, for me, the big determination of how much I like the portrayal of Namor is going to come down more to the personality, and how he's portrayed, like arrogant jackass.
Yeah.
And not ashamed of it. Like, he is not a nice guy. He is not a good guy. Even when he's working with the good guys, he is not a good guy. That, if they can encapsulate that and get the personality across, is going to be the big thing for me. And in terms of like the the Aztec kind of styling, I dig it. I think it's cool. I think it works for the character. I don't think it deters from anything. And let's be honest, the normal Namor look is very boring.
Yeah, it's super boring.
Like you either go for the old school one, which is like him in the trunks.
Yeah.
Or if you look at his new stuff, and it's like, and I was just thinking about this when they changed him to a kind of like a jumpsuit type thing. He looks like the Deep from The Boys.
I was gonna say that.
He looks like the Deep, which is really funny because in the comics, the Deep doesn't look like that. He's in like a diver suit.
Yeah.
In the comics, and they changed it to the way he looks in the show, and I wonder if that's one of the other things that influenced it, is the comic look for Namor is actually kind of what the Deep wears, and if they changed it because of that to try and disassociate from the Boys, because like you don't want to compete with them and stuff like that, because a lot of people are highly praising the Boys, and like you don't want to do a comparison with that,
I've got a question. So they also introduced promo art for a fella named Attuma, Attuma. I'm not familiar with this person at all, but he's basically wearing a giant hammerhead shark skull on his head, and it looks sweet. For
the
those
hammerhead
of you who do not...
shark sounds familiar. I'm not. All
right.
I'm not
potential
sure
spoilers. I'm going to post a link in the chat if anybody wants to see the image that I'm talking about. I don't know if it is a spoiler or not. I think it's a promo image of a villain possibly in the Black Panther movie. But his name is Attuma.
I hope it's not too much of a spoiler if it's a promo image at this point.
Out.
Yeah, let me have a look. Oop.
It looks sweet though. It looks bananas.
That looks cool.
Yeah, looks awesome.
I'm not going to put it up. It was coming up on my side for like playing it on the screen. I'm not going to do that just in case. But yeah, that's a really cool image. If that's the guy.
I just saw another one this morning of a female version of that, so I'm assuming it's his partner or wife or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the character. I don't know a lot about the Black Panther mythos to a certain degree. I know bits and pieces. But it's really cool. It's a really cool design, and I'd be up for that. Because of the hammerhead shark and the look of him, I think we're going to either... I wonder if we're going to get like a face-off between him and Namor, and that's what kind of brings Namor and Black Panther on similar sides.
Yeah.
Because obviously like Black Panther and Namor know each other, they're connected, and the comics are part of the Illuminati, which...
Yep.
Don't know if we'll get to see that version of it in ours. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they go with it. If it ends up being a rival to Namor, the only thing that's making me think they might not do that is I don't know if they want to, again, the comparison to Aquaman.
Yeah.
That was basically the Aquaman movie, was him versus Ocean Master.
Yeah, Ocean Master.
Facing off with Orm, and it's like, I don't know if they're going to want to do that. They might.
It's going to be interesting how they characterize Namor, because obviously me having read recently Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers run, and just seeing how big of a part Namor plays in that with Black Panther. Yeah. I'm very interested to see what they do with him. The
interesting thing with Namor that nobody seems to be mentioning yet, and I'm sure there's conversations, I've probably just not seen them, but nobody's mentioned yet the fact of Namor's a mutant. This is technically the first mutant we'll be properly seeing in the MCU. Because we got Quicksilver and we got Scarlet Witch, but their powers were explained as coming from one of the Infinity Stones. So, is this a potential for the beginning of the mutants being introduced? Are they going to keep Namor as a mutant?
Have they even said the word mutant yet in the MCU?
I don't believe so. So this could be a simple way of introducing that.
Yeah.
Of introducing Namor and how he's different and the fact that he's a mutant.
Yeah.
could be an easy way to introduce that and start the road of the X-Men.
Yeah, Ad said Atuma looks a lot better than the comic version. I did a quick Google for Atuma, and he's apparently a supervillain for Namor in the comics. He's like a Atlantean warlord or something like that.
Okay, so it is what I was kind of thinking. We're going to see the face-off between him and Namor, and Namor's going to probably go from being a villain for Black Panther to them teaming up sort of thing.
Yeah, of course.
Which it's just sad we're not going to see that against T'Challa, unfortunately, obviously with Chadwick Boseman's passing, but as far
you say... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think you said something on Twitter about, like, Spider-Man, Sony is taking all the Spider-Man villains and basically turning them into heroes, and by the time they're done, we're not going to have any more...
pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Because Kraven the Hunter streaking is like, he protects the environment and an animal
lover. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's like, I stand for the forest.
No, you murder animals. That's literally what your name is.
Your name is Kraven
the
Hunter. What do you think you hunt? It's
you
like,
wear a lion coat.
I was gonna say, it's like, yeah, he wears lion fur. I'm like, that's not fake fur. You know what I mean? It's like, but
yeah.
But yeah, so I'm excited to see. Obviously, there's a lot to come out. It's just an image, and it's not even technically an official image yet because Disney and Marvel haven't officially announced it, which they'll probably do as we're doing this podcast to make a liar out of me.
A serious question: who do you think is going to take the Black Panther mantle? In your opinion, it's Shuri or M'Baku?
I would say, like, my whole thing with the Shuri thing now is I don't know how they're going to go, because she kicked up that whole crap on set of like the not wearing masks stuff and the anti-vaxxer stuff and all that, and we've seen that cause issues with Disney, employees before. Obviously Gina Carano was coming off of The Mandalorian, was like the big one, and they can't really do the same to her because they're like halfway through shooting a movie.
Yeah. Unless
they want to drop another couple of $1 million, to like reshoot with somebody else. And I don't think they want to lose another actor because literally they just lost Chadwick, so I don't think they want to lose someone else from it. Because I can only imagine how quickly they had to put rewrites into action to take T'Challa out of the movie. To go for the comics, and if it's done properly, it should be Shuri. I don't know though. There's a lot of backing from M'Baku to become the new Black Panther. Winston Duke has got a lot of fan support. But I don't think they're going to go that road. I think it's going to go to Shuri.
The lady who played Nakia, Lupita.
Oh, Lupita Nyong'o, yeah.
I think she would be. I'm for Shuri being.
Oh, that would be a good choice, actually.
I think it would be cool, because like they were.
What's her character name again?
What's her character? An item at the end of the movie, right? They were.
Yeah, they were basically
not officially, but.
Yeah, but it's like it was hinted they were kind of together at the end.
Yeah.
What's the character name again? I completely blanked on it because I know it's
Nakia.
Nakia.
I think it's Nakia. I believe.
Nakia, because I know I said Lupita's the actress, but like, yeah, she's a really good actress, really strong, has really shown her prowess during the first film. I would actually be okay with her taking over the Black Panther mantle.
It'll be interesting to see what they do. Yeah,
I think that would be an interesting one to go, but we'll need to wait and see. It's like, because I've not officially said anything, we've not officially seen anything of it yet.
I'm surprised they haven't released anything like a teaser or anything, but
they're probably scared to be completely honest. Black Panther was one of our biggest grossing movies, with biggest
$1 billion, right?
Yeah, like with all this like praise round about it for showing off black culture, and now we're going to try and basically resell it to you without one of the main reasons it was popular, Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wouldn't want to do that either, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
I 100% would not be up for doing that either. That's a nut sell, and it's like, but we'll see how it goes. I hope it turns out well. I hope it turns out really good. I don't know, it feels like it's on the verge of it could be a train wreck.
Yeah.
It feels like we're on the edge of that. And I'm like,
it really does.
But I'm like, I don't want it to be though. I want it to do well, because there are a lot of amazing stories that can come out of it. There's a lot of amazing actors and crew and stuff involved in it. Like, I want to see it do well.
That's a really good point, though. I definitely feel like the MCU is on a precipice.
Hmm.
It's on a precipice, and it could go over the edge, or it could turn the corner. And I have a feeling that these next two movies, Thor and Black Panther, are going to be what makes that decision. Because let's be honest, the MCU, at least, all right, this is my opinion, but the MCU's as a whole, the shows, TV shows, mediocre.
Yeah,
As a whole,
yeah,
like as a
they've
whole,
not
they're
been
mediocre.
amazing. There's some really good shows. There's been some really great moments, but for the most part, I felt even when the shows are good, a lot of them haven't stuck the landing.
Yep. And some of the latest movies, in my opinion, Eternals. I liked Eternals. I get why people don't like it, but
Yeah,
it was a bit of a miss.
yeah, I wasn't a
Um,
fan of Eternals. I just
Doctor Strange, like it got critical acclaim, but there were a ton of people who weren't really a huge fan, myself included.
yeah,
You know, that was a bit of a miss, in my opinion.
it was all right.
Um,
Like I
yeah,
still count it as kind of midway. I kind of like rewatched bits and pieces, and I'm like, I still count it as a midway. I just think it's like it felt like it was a blindside for it.
yeah,
We went in expecting a multiversal travel movie, and what we got was a low key Sam Raimi horror movie, which isn't a bad thing,
yeah.
but I don't think that's what a lot of people expected going into it. You
But
know.
it'll be interesting to see. You know, apparently this is the most Taika Waititi Thor movie ever, so it'll be interesting to see what we get with this. And
So
then
you're
with
probably
Black
not going
Panther.
to like it then.
I know, because somebody was like on Twitter, they were like, "If you liked Thor Ragnarok, you're really gonna love this," and I'm like, "Oh, great." But
Yeah,
we'll see.
because Nitro's
We'll
one of the
see.
few people I've talked to that does not like Thor Ragnarok that
It's
much.
not that I don't like it. I just feel like he pushes it a little too far with the humor. Like I like my Thor a
It's not
little
that I don't like it,
more.
but
I like it more. I like my Thor a little more on the serious side. Like for instance, I think Thor in Infinity War and part of Endgame is the perfect Thor. He's very serious, but he's still funny.
yeah,
Like they don't
I
turn
will
him into
say
a
that.
joke.
Yeah, that's
They
my
don't turn him
favorite
into a
version of
joke.
Thor as well. Is probably Infinity War. That's him
Yeah,
at his best. I feel like they've gotten
agreed.
to.
Agreed.
Um, but yeah, we'll see where this goes with these next few movies, man, and see what happens with it. It's going to be interesting. The MCU's in a very interesting place right now,
Agreed.
and it's like, and like you said, like I've not totally been blown away with the Disney Plus shows, and I said it a couple of weeks ago, or like a few weeks ago, whenever we last spoke on it, and I'm like, I'm kind of still feeling it. I'm like, I don't know if they're overstretching themselves and spreading themselves too thin now.
Yeah.
Going from 2 to 3 movies a year to like 9 projects a year
Yeah.
is a lot, and if your stuff is becoming subpar because of it, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying that's the reason. For anyone starts sending me DMs that I don't read, um, it's like, but if that is having an effect on it, the problem is you're going to get left in the dust
Well, and here's the
because
thing,
there's
like,
some amazing stuff out. There's some amazing movies and TV shows just in the comic book and superhero genre
mhm,
that are really gripping, that are really catching attention, and if your stuff
yeah.
doesn't keep stacking up against it, let alone to all the other media, it's like it's going to
Mhm.
get left behind.
Well, and here's the thing: you have stuff like Stranger Things season 4, which if you haven't seen it, oh my lord, my opinion, best season so far.
If you've
And
not
The
seen
Boys.
it, go watch it. Stranger
Yeah,
Things season 4, that finale, like I think I literally
put our
posted,
stream and lurk.
I
Come on.
literally posted a tweet that was like, "Holy crap! Holy crap!
Yeah,
Stranger Things! Holy crap!"
yeah,
And
yeah.
like that's all I could say to the ending of that season, and I'm like, okay, I need season 5 to drop now. Like that
You
show
have
is so good.
you have streaming shows like Stranger Things. You have streaming shows like The Boys. Like
Oh, The Boys was so good this week as well.
you
It's
better
like,
bring it. Like you better bring it.
and I
If
see
you're
Tom and
if you're
Chunk in the chat saying they've not watched The Boys. Go watch The Boys.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
It's so good.
you got to bring it. If you're gonna release original streaming content based off of intellectual property, bring it.
Yeah,
Because like other people are bringing it and they're crushing it out of the park. Like it has to be good. It has to be
I
good.
do.
It can't be.
I just feel like that's where the MCU's kind of like dropped itself. Like it's never done well when it's tried to incorporate TV shows. Like as it started off with Agents of Shield, and Agents of Shield just kind of petered off. It had some good moments to it, but in all honesty, it's like the show for the most part is a bit forgettable.
Yes.
Um,
I
then
couldn't
there
make
was
it past the second season,
then it was the Marvel Netflix shows, and it's
which
like,
were hit and
and
miss. Let's be
they
honest.
did start as part of the MCU, they did start pitching them as like these are connected, and then completely
Forgot about it.
went off and did their own thing. And even then, like, they're not all like Daredevil is pretty much the big hit. Like, we're big fans of Punisher, but not everybody was. Jessica Jones was a big hit, but like a lot of people felt like it went down as the seasons went on. And Luke Cage was kind of hit and miss, and Iron Fist was just a train wreck.
Iron Man. Iron Fist was an absolute train wreck. Oh, good lord.
And it's like they didn't go well, and now we're doing the Disney Plus shows, and at best they're hit and miss as well. At best, like there's just stuff like, you know, it's like I get that not everything's not for everyone's taste, but like some of the stuff there, I'm like, it just doesn't feel like it works. And
yeah, agreed.
And that's the thing, is like, and then I would be fine with that if the shows just weren't working, but it's now feeling like a lot of the movies aren't working as well. Like, like half the movies are like, we were talking about it for Phase 4, like half of them are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the other half are average at best.
I think when we were talking about it the other week, we kind of hit it a little bit. Like, in Phase 1 through 3, there was a through theme. With all the movies, there was a theme on all the movies that tied all the movies together. It doesn't feel like there is, and it might be revealed at some point that there has been, but as of right now, it looks like they're all separate pockets of movies doing their own thing.
And it's like I'm trustful that we could be building up to something big, because like Kevin Feige said that we are and stuff, but at the same time, it's like right now I'm very much kind of like, I don't feel like we're going anywhere. Like, the big thing that shows that for me is the Disney Plus shows, because the Disney Plus shows happen and then it's like there's no continuation. Like, WandaVision continues with Scarlet Witch coming into Doctor Strange. Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to continue with Captain America 4 whenever that's coming out. But for the rest of them, it's like, what if's getting another series, but there's not really a continuation to any of those stories. It doesn't tie into anything.
Yeah,
I thought we were going to get stuff like Supreme Strange and stuff in the Doctor Strange movie, but we never did.
And they teased it. Like, they had to know what they were doing.
Oh, they highly teased it.
They had to know what they were doing. They teased Supreme Strange, and they teased the like imploding of the worlds with everything turning to ink. They knew what they were doing when they put that in the
100%. And then on top of that as well, we've got other shows like Hawkeye, which looks like we were building up for Kate Bishop and heading towards a Young Avengers thing. Another hint towards that, which if you don't announce that soon, like, come on, like, seriously, it's getting ridiculous now.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh yeah, that's not getting a second season. We are going to do a spin-off show for Echo though. I'm like,
no offense to the lady who portrayed Echo.
No offense, Echo's amazing, but I'm like, why are we getting an Echo show and not another Hawkeye show? Like,
yeah.
You don't even need to put Jeremy Renner in there. Let's follow. You've established Kate Bishop. Let's follow her now, because she was a good character.
And that show started off awesome.
Literally, the finale was the only thing that ruined that for me. Agreed. I loved that show. Speaking of spin-offs as well, we're not getting another WandaVision, and Wanda's now apparently dead following Doctor Strange. Spoilers for that, by the way, but like I don't think she's dead, but it's left like she's dead, but she's going to show up again. You know she is. Yeah. But yet we're getting an Agatha Harkness show.
Nobody asked for that.
Like, I'm not going to lie, like, the actress, I can't even remember her name off the top of my head, but she's phenomenal that played Agatha. She did such a great job. I would love to see her come back, and she's been left there in a way that, like, if Wanda ever needed to go back and get her, she could, which is like, awesome, let's bring her back. But her getting her own show, I'm like, I feel like we're getting to the point of, like, instead of, like, you know how we always talked about the DCEU needs to do a bit more Marvel? I feel like Marvel's doing a bit more of the DCEU now. Like, we're just throwing stuff at the wall, like, oh, the fans loved Agatha Harkness and they went mental for it. The song was like topping charts and stuff, so let's give her a show. I'm like,
they're pulling a Sony where they're just making they're making
content for everybody
that nobody's asking for, about villains or heroes that, no offense, nobody really cares about or nobody really wants to see any more of. People want to see.
I don't think Agatha Harkness can hold her own show. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't. It's like Echo is like a bottom tier character. I'm glad we're getting like deaf representation and the actress is deaf and all that. That's amazing. She's a great character. I don't think she can hold a show though. You know, but like a lot of the stuff just doesn't tie in. Like, that's my problem, is like a lot of these are becoming one and done shows. A lot of these are becoming like they're not connected to the MCU. There's not a second season. It doesn't feel like it's having an impact in anything apart from a couple of things in the movies and a couple of things that we're getting spin-offs for, and it's like, why should I care?
Yeah.
Like, you're investing me in this world, and it's like, but you're giving me stuff like this, which is like we talked about, like, you're now putting out 9 projects a year, like, going to the cinema to see all the movies and going to streaming to watch all the shows while competing with everything else that we've got in life. I'm like, it's asking a lot of people, and I stand by that. It's like, sometimes, like, you know, too much content isn't a good thing. Having choice and having stuff that people can if that's just not having my mic as much, but having that much content is not always a good thing. You know, it's like having that stuff out there, because people are going to start to pick and choose, and as much as that's a good thing in a certain extent of, like, you know, you can cover a lot of bases, it's like usually, like, when you try to cover a whole bunch of bases, you find out you don't cover any.
Yeah. Well, you said it when we were talking about it last time. Like, I would rather them just cut all the content in half and just focus on it being good.
Yeah, like, we've hung around for 12 years to get to Endgame and get to the payoff of the story that started with Iron Man.
And it was worth it.
I have no qualms waiting another 12 years for a big payoff if it's going to be of similar quality, if not better. I have no qualms waiting. Like, I mean, I started that journey in 2008 when we got Iron Man. It's like, I was in my 20s. I'm in my mid-30s now, and I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy waiting until I'm in my mid-40s to get a payoff for what's happening now. I'm more than happy to wait until my mid-40s and my kids to be grown up for them to get introduced to the MCU and get payoffs at the cinema, seeing these finales like I got.
Yeah.
I am more than happy to do that. I'm just worried that they're really stretching themselves thin, and it's I'm not enjoying it as much as I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'll say it like the content's dropping. Like, I personally am not enjoying it as much as I've enjoyed other things. And sometimes they put out movies that haven't been great, and it's like, but you know what I'm finding though? I found, like, even when I used to watch the subpar movies, like, and I watch stuff like the stuff that gets ripped apart, like Thor: Dark World and like Iron Man 2 and 3 and stuff like that. Even when I came out of the cinema watching those, I thought they were amazing. Because I was in the hype in the moment, and I got invested in it, in the hype of, like, oh, it's another Marvel movie.
Yeah.
I don't feel that hype now, and part of that is probably because, like, you know, like I said, we're 12 years in, the hype's disappeared, the hype's not there as much as it was for stuff. Like, it's that thing of, like, you know, you get more diminishing returns. Like, I need more to get that hype, and I feel like they're almost like, it's almost the opposite though. I feel like, okay, we're giving you more because you need more, and I'm like, and my hype's dropping. I have never felt hype in my life seeing a movie as I did when you and me were sitting in that cinema during Endgame.
Dude.
The hype in that place.
The best experience I've ever had.
It was electric in there. Like, you could feel it.
It was a buzz, dude. I'm getting goosebumps, like, thinking
that
about
final fight. Like, you were like, come on. Like, you could feel the energy. We were all ready to see this take place.
And, like, there was anticipation. They built anticipation into the movies. Like, I was thinking about, like, the Disney Plus shows. Like, I think a good barometer is for that is I forgot that Miss Marvel released last Wednesday, and I just watched it yesterday. I forgot. I was like, it wasn't. And back in the day when Marvel released something, I was on it.
Yeah, on the day, as soon as something dropped, I'm watching it. And it's like, and it's not a big a deal to, like, catch stuff now. And I'm like,
no, it's like, it's not gonna. For one, it's not gonna make that big of a difference in the larger scheme of things, Marvel wise. And two, it's honestly probably going to be mediocre. And I'm not saying anything bad about Mrs. Marvel. I'm just talking about in general.
Mrs. Marvel. I love how you just married.
Marvel.
I love how you just married her off there.
Sorry.
But yeah, it's like, and it's nothing against Miss Marvel. It's nothing against. I've completely forgot the actress's name. It's like, I'll be completely honest, like, because I wasn't planning on speaking with her, so I didn't refresh anything. But, like, it's nothing against her. It's nothing against the show. It's nothing against that. And it's like, it's just a case of, kind of like what's getting said in chat there. It's like, you know, it's like Tom saying, yeah, but what's good mean to them?
Yeah.
Good to them means more money. good means that there's more people buying Disney Plus to watch the shows, and there's more people going to the cinema to see the movie, because at this point I'll pretty much guarantee if a new Marvel movie drops, I'm probably going to go see it. There's not as much hype, and then Chunk is like, and now you're just like, oh, it's another Marvel movie, and I'm like, honestly, yeah, like I'm hyped for Thor to a certain extent, because if this is done right, this could be really good, and if they do Gore the God Butcher right, this could be a phenomenal villain on screen. Don't get me wrong, I think he's going to be a one and done. I don't think he's going to stick around.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Which is unfortunate, but at the same time, this is kind of like the end of Thor's story. I still stand by Thor gets killed. Like, that's my call for this movie, is this is going to get Thor's going to get killed by Gore. Or like they're going to take each other out, and that's going to be the finale for it, and it's going to leave it open if Jane's going to be Thor. But I think this might be Chris Hemsworth's swan song.
Gotcha.
That's my call for it. If that happens, I do not have insider knowledge. I'm not spoiling anything for you. This is 100% me having a guess of where I think it's going based on stuff. Just the way they're setting it up is like, it feels like that.
Just kind of proof about what we're talking about. As an example, Chunk just said, "Oh yeah, I totally forgot about Miss Marvel. I'll go watch that after this."
Yeah, exactly.
Like, before that would have never happened.
No,
that would have never happened.
Like, see when they dropped, see when WandaVision started coming out, like, especially after a year gap of Marvel stuff, like, I guarantee you the day that dropped, I think it was Friday when that was coming out, it was Fridays before they moved it, every Friday, like, I'd be sitting at my desk, boom, WandaVision on, throw it on, sit and watch it, no question asked. I was catching up with it, watched the premiere of it, the day it came out, the first 2 episodes back to back, every week when the next one dropped. Same with Falcon and Winter Soldier, same with everything. The movies, like, I got to the movie theatre as soon as I could to go see it. Unfortunately, sometimes it was a week later, but like, the first moment I had a free chance to go, I was there. Yeah. And now it's like, I'll get to it.
I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yeah.
Because again, like we were saying, it doesn't feel like it's making a huge impact to the overall universe.
Yeah.
Because they're really not, let's be honest. They're not.
No,
they're self-contained.
But that's it. It's like they're not connected, and I'm like, okay, of all the shows now, not upcoming projects, not anything that's coming up, what have we gotten in the Disney Plus shows that actually feeds into the MCU?
Yep.
The stuff in WandaVision, to set up Scarlet Witch as the villain for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and hints with Captain Carter and Doctor Strange Supreme being in there, and kind of calls to those, even though it was different versions of them. It's not the same one that we get in What If. Why? Because we know she's getting another episode in season 2, so when Wanda kills her off, it clearly can't be her. And then the version of Doctor Strange Supreme we got clearly states a different origin to why he is the way he is and where he is from the one we get in What If, so it's not the same. Even though they thoroughly hinted that they were. So really the only one that's affected the MCU in a greater whole has been WandaVision. Not including projects that are coming up, not including anything like that, and there's all still possibilities for that. But like, literally the end credit scenes at the end of the movies were setting up, oh, this is coming next. Oh, be ready for this. Even the movies used to say such and such will return in like Avengers, whatever.
Yeah.
There's none of that at the end of the shows, because like, yeah, they'll probably be back some point, maybe, possibly at some time.
Well, even like going so far as, and I know we're way off, we're like an hour in, but we are full steam ahead, and I'm here for it.
Oh, we're good. It's only 45 minutes. We're good.
Even the way that they set up end tags in the movies, like I'm thinking about, I can't remember what movie it was. I believe it was Iron Man. I'm not 100% sure, but when they showed Agent Coulson out in the desert, and then they showed the close up of the hammer. Dude, even the way that they like
Iron Man 2,
I'm like, oh yes, I'm so pumped. And
well, that's it.
That's
wait
like a year and a half for that movie or something like that.
Well, that's the thing. That was in Iron Man 2. Even at the end of Iron Man 1, the very first end credits scene when Nick Fury shows up, nobody knew that Sam Jackson was showing up for that. And all he had to say was, "I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative."
Dude, heads exploded.
And I was in. We didn't get that movie for what, 2008, 9, 10, 11, 4 years?
Yeah.
4 years before we got the payoff for that. But all he had to say was the word Avengers. And every single person that watched Iron Man that knew what the Avengers were was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm sold. whatever you bring out next, I'm at least making it to Avengers because I need to see what happens. But
Ads, I agree 100%. It's not a bad show. It's just like meh.
yeah, I don't have the Cross's wife better than Nitro, who's better than Cross.
At least I'm in the middle.
I love how I'm just dropping tiers. I mean, I don't question the fact my wife's first, but like I just love the fact I just keep dropping down the tier list here.
I would probably agree with that ranking.
Only founded the show, run the show, do all the behind the scenes stuff for the show, you know. Just not appreciated in my own time. Don't worry, they'll write songs about me when I'm gone.
No, they won't.
You will. I put it in my will. Nitro must write a song about me if I die.
I'll just rip my voice box out. I still have to write it though, don't I? Dang it!
I was gonna say, it's like, yeah, you don't have to sing it, you have to write it. We'll get somebody actually, you know, they can sing well to sing it. Nitro streams, I'll say you're better. It's like, that's just true, sort of.
He does.
But
alright, you want
anyway,
to get into this?
Yeah, I think that's a good kind of cutting off point. I think that was a good rant though to start off. Because this is a chill stream. I mean,
I feel like we ran on that all the time, but.
Alright. So how do we want to do this? We want to do like a comic each sort of thing, because you've got like 50 more than I do sitting in your pile. So.
Yeah. So basically, I'll kind of surmise what we're trying to do today. So basically, we kind of gathered together all the comics, all the trade paperbacks that we read this year. We're just gonna kind of talk through those.
Wow, Chunk. Wow, dude, that's brutal, man. For anyone who's listening or not able to see the chat, it says, I won't remember you, Cross. Like, wow.
Sheesh.
That is freaking harsh, man.
That is tough, dude. So yeah, we're going to take a look at some of the stuff that we've read this year and kind of very, very briefly talk through it, what we liked, what we didn't like. So yeah. You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first. I'm still counting on the fact of like you've now reminded people we've got sound effects that I don't want played during the
everybody forgets. Everybody always forgets that we have sound alerts, and I think they're the funniest thing ever. So,
it's like I think the sound alerts getting played, just not during the podcast, just because like I have to upload this, and poor people are going to have to just listen to this on wherever you get your podcast from, and all of a sudden I'm going to get hit with a Titanic float.
Dude, I'm getting a bunch of praise in the chat, which I appreciate.
Actually, get your eyes. Wow.
All right, so one of the first ones that I kind of want to talk through is a run. So I grew up on Marvel mostly. I had a little bit of Batman from DC, a little bit of Superman, but for the most part, I had Marvel. Everybody had Death of Superman, right? So I had that. But I grew up on mostly Marvel. So there was a couple Batman runs that I've been wanting to read for a while. One of them was Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, Batman, the New 52 run. So I got both volume 1 and 2. I haven't read the third one yet. But I will say, like, not having read a ton of Batman, I really dug it, dude. I really dug the story. It feels like a younger Bruce Wayne, a younger
Court and City
Batman.
of Bells are like the highlights of that run. Like, he hit the ground hard with it. It was such a good storyline.
Yeah, it's really violent, which I like. I like that. I like the grittiness, the violentness of Batman. The villain was awesome. Court of Owls and Talon was really, really cool. And can I say, I follow Greg Capullo on Twitter, and he is just as good in this book as he looks on Twitter as far as his art. It's
his art's
mind blowing.
His art's so very gritty, very real, very like down and dirty sort of style to it, which for this style of story really works. There's almost a horror element to a lot of it as well.
Yes. And I like how and we might get into some spoilers as we're talking through some of this stuff, but it's a real the enemy in this, the Talon and the Court of Owls is tough for Batman. Like he really has to go at it with them. It's not like a one and done like you said, villain of the week type thing. He really has his metal tested in this, and it's really cool. I really like it.
It feels like a major threat. It feels like it's a good one to kick off with. It feels like it's a major threat to Gotham. It feels like the city's actually in danger. There's some really interesting twists and turns that the story takes. I think it's one of the best Batman stories I think I've ever read. I love the Court of Owls story.
Yeah, and they slowly introduce the villains that we all know and love, like Mr. Freeze, Joker, all that stuff in here, and it's really cool. The way that they kind of reimagined them for New 52 is it's really, really cool. Like, one of the cool changes, and I've just gotten into, again, spoilers for those of you who've not read this, but I've just gotten into the Mr. Freeze part, which happens at the end of Volume 2, I think. And basically, I might get this wrong, but his story is basically like his wife kind of gets into a coma, and he puts her on ice to try to figure out a cure to bring her back to life.
Yes.
And in the meantime, obviously, he goes crazy and turns into a villain. But I think what they're hinting at is this is all in his head. Like, that didn't really happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really cool spin on a classic villain that we all know and love, Mr. Freeze. And I'm interested to see Volume 3. I have it in my wish list, but I haven't been able to grab it yet. So
Volume 3 is really interesting. If you're talking about redesigns for characters as well, the Joker in that is... It plays into Greg Capullo's horror strengths again, because the Joker in the New 52 Detective Comics, because in Detective Comics, when it rebooted for New 52, started doing like the early stuff for Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So here's some earlier stories and stuff, and then during that run, I think it was, Joker actually gets his face sliced off.
Dang.
So the start of Volume 3 is literally like, it's in the police station, and it's literally him breaking into the police station to get his face back.
Dang.
And then he like pins it onto his head.
Oh, I've seen that picture. Okay.
Like with the face like attached, but it's not attached, it's just pinned on. So as the comic goes on as well, you start to see the face kind of like looking more decayed, and because it's dead skin, so it's like rotting away, but he's still wearing it on his face. It really plays into the horror elements.
Yeah. So yeah, I really dug it. I'm interested to read Volume 3. It was a really cool story, and again, I get comics for the art, and I was not disappointed with Greg Capullo. I mean, his stuff is just ridiculous. It's a little looser than some. The way he draws is a little looser than some comics that I normally read. Like, I'm thinking about New Avengers and Avengers and even Fantastic Four a little bit. The Secret Wars run, and a lot of that stuff is just really tight and really like put together. And this is a little looser, but I really, really dig it, man.
Yeah. And adds, yes, just like Jerome in Gotham, that's where they got the inspiration for doing that, with Jerome like pinning the face on. That comes for the New 52 run.
Got it.
Those were great shows and movies, absolutely. Chung saying the Mr. Freeze in the 90s Batman animated movie, Sub-Zero is my favourite.
I don't know if I saw that movie.
See the 90s animated series? The whole story of Mr. Freeze's wife on ice and stuff?
Yes.
That's where that comes from. He did not have that backstory before the 90s.
I didn't know that.
That's where it came from. The animated series gave him that backstory, and they incorporated it, and that's
awesome.
And that became like his story after that, because people responded to it so well.
It's so good, man.
And it's like and that's been his story ever since, because like, yeah, you can't top that for Freeze.
I still remember I can't remember when that show came out, but I seem to remember me coming home from school and like immediately going to the TV to watch the new episode of that.
Oh yeah, there was other. Yeah, it was on in Scotland. It was played on Saturday, so like every Saturday morning, like Batman the Animated Series was one of the Saturday morning shows I would sit and watch. Like every Saturday morning, I think there was like a couple of episodes would play.
Yeah. And
that was like mixed in with all the other Saturday morning stuff I watched. So yeah, it's so good.
All right, what's your first one?
Let me have a look. On something, I had no idea they created that. That's awesome. So that Harley, what else did that team create? I know, that's it. It's like they created the backstory for Freeze, which I believe that's the case. I'll need to double check on it, but yeah, I believe it is that came from. But Harley as well, Harley Quinn, obviously, originated in that show and was meant to be a one-off, and now she's like one of the big freaking names of the DC Comics.
Was Clayface a thing before the animated show?
Yes, I think he was. Okay. I don't know how prominent before, but I believe he was. I think the only full character that came out of it was Harley.
Okay.
But I'm not totally sure. There might be others. So Nitro's got a good selection of stuff there to kind of that he's read through. He's been doing play catch up on major storylines and stuff. I've pretty much exclusively read like indie stuff. I've made no qualms about it. I'm like exclusively getting fuller and further into a lot of the indie comics. So the first one I want to mention, I'm not going to go totally in depth into this because this is actually going to be our comic for the Indie Comic Book Club in August, but I had to mention it here because it's such a good book. I think I've told you about it for a while now. Nitro was Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
The book from Scott Snyder and Charles Soule as the writers, and a ton of different artists. I don't know all the first names, are not on there, but it's a really, really intriguing story. Basically, the whole premise of Undiscovered Country, which is actually fairly timely part of it now. Because when I came into this, I just knew it was part of a whole thing that America had like shut its borders to everyone. And when I started getting into the comic, what we find out very quickly is that the borders were shut because of a disease that was overtaking the world. I believe it's called Sky, and it's literally like overtaking the planet and killing people. So to protect themselves, America shut its borders, and they literally put up like a force field, like security net. Nothing has got in, nothing has got out, and there's two major like almost like groups. It's almost like two parts of the world have kind of came together as like the new organizations running stuff. I'm trying to find the names of them. I've completely blanked on them. But basically, hey CB Pro. Hey guys, hope the podcast is going well. It is. We're talking about comics that we have been reading about this year. So thank you so much for stopping in. I appreciate it. Oh, that's weird. I don't know why I was pulling that up in chat that weirdly. That's bizarre. But yeah, so for Undiscovered Country, basically, there's been no contact with America for like years, like decades. And all of a sudden, there's a transmission that comes out of America with a man claiming to be the current president. And basically saying, we have a cure. We've found a way to stop the virus, and the two different parts of the world come together to create a team to send in there, and to go meet with them, negotiate, see if they can get it, and try and save the world. Main characters that you get are a sister who is working or is trying to work on a cure, so she's all for this. And her brother, who is kind of almost like a militia for hire guy. He's like military training and stuff, but he gets hired all over the place and stuff, and they're kind of this sort of ride-along characters. And they basically go into America not knowing what to expect. They bring in like a kid who's studied up on American history and economics, lays out of buildings, stores, different things, like all the stuff that you think not just American history but like current day stuff that you're like, you know, if we broke into a Walmart, what's the layout of the store likely to look like? You know what I mean? Like all this random stuff of like, what could we possibly need? There's a guy who's an expert on it. I keep bumping it in my desk today. I don't know what's going on.
My chair keeps going doot doot doot.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth like my arm of my chair like keeps clipping the side of my desk for some reason. I don't know why, but apparently that's the thing today. So if you see the camera shake, that's probably what's happened. But basically they cross the net, an opening appears in the net, they get in there, and then the shield closes behind them, and they get blasted out of the air. And very quickly they start to learn about this brand new world, which is they're in like the first zone, and like there's a key, like they meet a guy called Uncle Sam, who literally looks like Uncle Sam. Like the Uncle Sam, you know, I want you post. He literally looks freaking exactly like it. And he's basically like, well, there's a guy that runs this zone, and he's got the key that gets us out of here. And this area is ran kind of like a Mad Max looking type place. And they try to get the key, and basically he's telling them we want to try and get to the centre because that's how we can change all this, because there's some prophecy or something for the twins, you know, usual prophecy crap. I almost ignore prophecy stuff in comics now. Like it's a given. Of course there's a prophecy. Of course you knew they were coming. But he talks about riding the spiral, or like the spiral, because America is like they're in the area of the Destiny Man, and this is like the map of America at this point. So they're like here at the Destiny Man, and this is the doorway path that he's talking about here. But it's almost like a spiral they have to follow to the center. And he keeps talking about riding the spiral, but he doesn't exactly explain what that means or why they can't just traverse across, why they have to go this specific route. But it's a really intriguing story, because you start to find out little bits and pieces of this world. We get little things revealed about the characters, obviously.
Yeah.
And the thing is, America shut its borders again. Their transport's down. Destiny Man captures their pilot. So it's now became a case of what they came in to negotiate and try and get a cure. Now it's became a case of survival. They are unknown people in a land full of the whatever Americans were left there. And has evolved over this past, I think it's I'd say 40 years, something like that. Maybe not even that long, maybe 30. It's but yeah, it's so it's this interesting new world. So the first volume kind of sets all of that up, and that going forward we're going to start to discover these different areas and discover different things about them and start to see what the world. So I'm really intrigued to check out volume 2. Yeah. Because I want to see what's beyond that door. I want to see really what comes next, what's the next part of it. Yeah. So, which I don't think is a spoiler to say that they get to the door and get through it eventually. I'm not going to tell the details of how they get to that stage, but I'm kill if the musters of volume 2. Yeah. Otherwise, there's no story. So I don't think that's a spoiler personally for me. But I don't want to go any more detail on that, obviously, because we're going to be talking about it. We're going to check it out, but I would highly recommend this. I thoroughly enjoyed reading this way more than I thought.
I know you were super hyped about that before you read it.
Yeah, I was really excited just at the concept, because I wanted to see what it was going to be like, and I read it and it did not disappoint. I really enjoyed this book.
That's awesome.
Alright, what do you got for us, man?
So my next one, I purchased this when the film was first teased and announced. But this is actually, let me get it right. So this is Aaron. Hold on, I want to get the names right. So the writer is Jason Aaron, and the artist is Esad Ribic, I believe. So this is Thor: God of Thunder. This is Gore the God Butcher. This is the intro of Gore the God Butcher. Yeah. One thing I don't know if I've actually ever read a Thor run before. I don't think I have, actually. Yeah. So this is basically my introduction to Thor. One of the things that I really, really appreciated about this is I'm a huge fan, for those of you who watch the show for any period of time know that I'm a huge fan of mythology, whether it's Greek or Roman or whatever. I just love learning about how different cultures look at the pantheon and how they describe that and how they interact with them and all that stuff, and it's really, really cool. Absolutely. This book is literally all about that. It's all about how gods interact with their subjects, I guess, for lack of better words. And it tells a story. Again, I'm going to get into spoilers a little bit, and I'm not as good at summarizing books as Cross is, but I'll do my best. It tells a story about Gore, who had a family, and apparently this famine or a disease hit his homeworld, and he prayed to the gods to save them, and he didn't get an answer, and his entire family died. No one came. So he went on a rampage, and started murdering, brutally torturing and murdering any god he could find. And that's basically the entire premise of this story. So it starts off in the 800s AD, and in Iceland, and it's Thor is with the Norse people, and they find a severed head of a Native American deity floating in the water, and just that is the first 3 pages, and then it just goes on this whirlwind of Thor searching for this god murderer, and he encounters Gore, and Gore lights him up. Gore basically wrecks shop on Thor. Yeah. And it's gonna get to a point, I think it gets to a point towards the end of volume 1 where Thor meets King Thor, I think, and they fight Gore together. somehow. I forgot. It's been a while since I read it.
Yeah, because there's kind of like multiple timelines going on, or multiple parts of Thor's timeline. So
yeah,
you see the younger Thor and you see his past history, but you also get clips of modern Thor, like current day. But then you also get Thor, like King Thor, King of Asgard. So there's a whole connection between the Thors throughout it. I think the thing that really sells this book for me is Gore is everything I want in a villain.
Yeah, he's formidable. Like,
he is brutal, he is unforgiving, he is relentless, but he is also completely relatable.
Yeah. Because
Like,
there's a point.
why
there's a
he
point
does
in the
what
book.
he does is a relatable thing. Like, I prayed to the gods and no one came.
There's a point in the book where the people are kind of trying to rise up against Gore because he's killing the gods, and he's like, "Look, I don't want to kill you. Like, I have no problem with you. You're fine."
He has no
And,
issue
like,
with people because he's looking at them like, I'm one of you.
Yeah, like I'm
Your
doing
gods
you a
are
favor type
not.
thing.
Your gods are not helping you.
Yeah,
I'm freeing you from these deities, and it's like,
yeah.
it's such a good villain. Like,
Just to show you how brutal he is, there's one part in the book where it's King Thor, so it's later on in his life, and Gore basically comes to Asgard, and he kills everyone on Asgard except for Thor. He leaves him in his throne room, and he won't kill him, and Thor's like begging him to kill him, and he won't kill him because he wants him to suffer. Like, that's how brutal this is.
yeah.
So I know we were talking about it before we got on stream. Like, when I approach comics, like, I like to read one volume, and if like you hook me, then I'll get another volume. I definitely want to get the second one for this.
Oh,
'Cause,
yeah,
like you said, it ties in.
I would
It ties
challenge
into
anyone
Mighty
to
Thor.
read that. I would challenge anyone to read that first volume and not get hooked on Jason Aaron's run.
And like, speaking about the art, like, the art is incredible. Like, this is one of his first fights with Gore. I don't know if you guys can see this. He basically gets on a Pegasus and they fight in the air. And Gore ends up using the Necro sword, which is from the symbiote planet, the same planet that Venom is from. And he ends up cutting the Pegasus head off midair. It's such a cool book. It has some amazing fighting scenes and fights in the book.
Yeah.
So if you are a huge Thor fan and you like a really good, like, brutal, like, story, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I read it in one sitting almost.
Yeah, it's such a good story, and it's the beginning of Jason Aaron's run. Like, it's quintessentially like the Thor run. Like, if you're going to introduce anybody to Thor and the concepts of Thor, hand them that book and, like, read for there and just follow it.
Yeah.
Follow it. And Jason Aaron's run goes for a while. Like, it goes through a whole bunch of stories. It goes through the whole Jane Foster Thor. Although that's a much later down the line. It goes back to Thor becoming worthy again and getting the hammer back, all the way through to the War of Realms.
Yeah.
Like, he wrote that for years. So yeah, it's like 100%. It's an amazing story. Like, I love the Gore the God Butcher. Just the concept. As soon as I'd heard of Gore the God Butcher and his concept, like, I think the back blurb of the book when I first read it describes it as like gods have started going missing across time and space.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you had my attention. Like literally that alone was like that. Oh, I'm intrigued now. I need to know what happens. I need to see what goes on here.
And there's one part where he goes to this place called the Eternal City, which has all the records of all the gods and everything like that. And he goes to, like, the librarian or whatever, and he's like, I need to go to the records of gods that haven't been heard of in a while. And it's a really cool.
Yeah. Is there any gods that haven't made a bit of a stir in a while? Because we might want to check on them.
They're probably dead.
Yeah, there might be a reason why nobody's heard from them in a little bit, But awesome, man. That's an awesome one as well. Absolutely. Alright, I'm going to delve into my second one. I was talking to Nitro before we started stream, and this, like, Undiscovered Country is the one that I 100% is probably my favourite comic I've read so far this year. This one is a very close second, and I'll explain why it didn't hit it, although it has the potential to be one of my favourite comic runs if it keeps going the way it is. Is East of West. I'm fully aware my camera's reversed and that doesn't look properly, but I don't care. But East of West is a story from Jonathan Hickman, which, if anyone knows Jonathan Hickman, you completely understand why this is a slow burn. The only reason this one didn't become the top for me, as much as I love the story, is it feels like not much happens.
Yeah.
But I expected that going in. We've talked about Jonathan Hickman. Both of us are big fans of his writing. But Jonathan Hickman is very much a long-term writer. Like I said it to Nitro, I know there's stuff I'm reading here that is going to pay off. Like there's 10 volumes in the series. I know by the time I get to volume 7 and 8, there's going to be a payoff for this stuff leading up to the
Secret
finale.
Wars run was like 10 years, right?
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, because like it wasn't 10 years, but it was like 2012, like because it came out at the same time as Thor when he started his Avengers run, so it was around 2012. And Secret Wars came out about 2015, 2016, something like that.
Yeah.
But you're talking like 4 or 5 years build. Same with his Fantastic Four run to get to that finale. That was about 4 years, 5 years, something like that. I'd say he's on the lookout for Marvel comics with Hercules in them. As another one of our members of the community that's big on Pantheon and lore around gods and all that sort of stuff.
Ads, have you read Gore the God Butcher? Sorry, I didn't mean to. Go ahead.
No worries, man. You're good. But basically, this story. The interesting thing with this story as well is it kind of drops you straight in the world. Like you know how we were talking about, like you were speaking on a story. I don't know, one of the comics that you read. I'm not going to say it because you're going to get to it eventually, probably. Is how they kind of reveal too much right away.
Yeah.
This one is not like that. It throws you in the middle of it, and you understand a bit of what's going on, but you don't totally get it. Like the story follows the 4 horsemen, or more specifically, it follows Death.
Yeah. And
during the whole story, there's this. It's an interesting world. It's kind of like a Western steampunky sort of thing, like Western, cyberpunk, some sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like. It's kind of like an old school Western in telling it, but there's a lot of technology. Like Death rides off on like a metallic horse and stuff, and there's great cities, so it's kind of like an alternative future for Earth. But Death's riding around with 2 other people separate from the other horsemen, and it isn't until like issue 2 we find out the other horsemen have all been reborn, and like so they're all like young kids, but they still retain their memories. But something happened that Death didn't go with them, and he deviated. And as we start to find out, there's been a situation that occurred where Death was turned on by this cult that like follows a horseman and wants to bring on the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And so Death's doing a little bit of a Kill Bill right now, where he's like going after them one by one, trying to find them and trying to get revenge. And slight spoilers for it is one of the reasons you find out he's separated from the others is he fell in love. And he's part of the betrayal was like his wife being killed, and they attempted to kill him, so he's going after them.
Dang.
And then he finds out his wife's alive, and he goes for her.
Dude, that's sweet.
And that's how the end of the first volume basically goes, is him going after his wife with these 2 friends that he's got.
Yeah. We
don't get a whole lot of backstory on them, but they've got mystical powers and stuff, but we start to learn about something happened to split the horsemen, something happened where they turned on him. We don't get the full story. This cult that is built up is like, why are they trying to bring it around? Like, and even one of them like talks to another member and is like, that look, I don't think this is the right idea anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, and you know, so do you not think we should stop them? The other guy's like, I don't care, I'm not scared of them, the horsemen can do what they like. And it's like, and he's like, well, you may be okay with what's happening, but I'm going to go and try and stop it. So there might be a coup happening in the cult as well, where it's like they're not trusting it.
Yeah.
You know, and want to change everything around. It's like, it's such an intriguing story, but if you do pick it up, be ready for a slow burn. Be ready for a slow paced story that I have no doubt is going to pick up. Like, I am nothing but intrigued. Like, I need more.
Yeah.
It's very much a I need more sort of story. And basically the last issue of it, we really get an idea of the cult maybe harboring the beast of the apocalypse. And start to find out a little bit about that as well. And then it ends with the Death riding off, but I'm not going to I don't want to ruin what he's riding off to do, because it's a cool little reveal when you get to it in the end.
Dude, you had me at Kill Bill. Dude, I gotta read it.
Yeah, it's basically like, I'm saying a good shot. So I'll try to find a good shot that's not so violent, but maybe I'll show a violent one to show off. Like, literally he goes into a bar, like right at the start. That's the first thing. Like, it's literally Western.
Dude, that's sweet.
Of Death walking into the bar. Yeah, the art is phenomenal. Who's the artist in this one again? Dragotta and Martin.
Is that a Triforce?
It's meant to be a symbol that's kind of like a Triforce, but I think it's meant to be the symbol of the Horseman.
Oh, okay.
Because it's 4 triangles all together as one.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so like he drinks up and then people come up to him, so it's him doing normal drinking at the start.
Mm-hmm.
And then guys come up and try to bother him.
Dude.
Because he's there for the bartender. It turns out the bartender's got knowledge, and then...
Holy crap.
And then he tortures the bartender as well.
Dang. Alright, I gotta read it.
Like, I mean, East of West, like, I read the concept of it. It was really interesting. I literally was in the the shop when I picked this up.
Uh-huh.
There's not a blurb. I had to like look up on Amazon to find out the exact story, but this is the blurb in the back.
Dude, that's hilarious. We would tell you. What did it say? What would tell you?
We would tell you to pray, but it wouldn't do you. It wouldn't do any good. You have earned what is coming to you.
Dang.
I'm like, if you love old Western style revenge stories in any shape or form, as well as being in a kind of post-apocalyptic world waiting on the end of everything with the 4 horsemen, 100% pick it up. I'd highly recommend picking it up.
Dude, I feel like we need to make an Amazon list with all these things.
Yeah, I'll probably make one if you're in the Discord, join it. I'll try and put a list together with everything and link it there, like a wish list with all these if anyone wants to pick them up, or at the very least just messages and we can tell you what ones to get.
All right, so my next one is actually an indie comic.
Ooh.
And this is one where
I'm so proud. I've got Nitro to branch out.
I had been, we had been on an indie comic kick, you and I, or the channel, and I was like, man, indies, like, we've read some really cool stuff.
Yeah, we've read some amazing stuff.
I want to know what else is out there, like top indie comics, like on various different lists. And this one showed up on a couple different lists. So this one's called Radiant Black. For those of you who can see this.
I mean, it looks stunning. Like, that cover was like a stunning piece of artwork.
Definitely was eye-catching. So this is the first volume. The writer is Kyle Higgins, and the artist is Marcelo Costa. So it basically centers around this writer who's kind of like at the end of his rope. Like, his book's not selling. This is the first page. It shows he's on the phone with the bank, and he has like a negative bank balance. Like, he has.
I remember those days.
He's moving in with his dad. He's like breaking down. He's doing Uber at the beginning of the thing, and these people get in, and he starts sobbing, and they're in the back seat like. and then it cuts to the title page. So it opens like a movie. Like, it opens like this is gonna be awesome. I'm in for a really, really cool ride. He has a friend that meets him at home who's kind of like a go-getter, like really outspoken, really gregarious type thing, and you can tell he's down on his luck, so he's trying to like encourage him and stuff like that. So he takes him out for drinks one night, and they happen upon this. I think how it happens is there is this what looks like a black hole floating above some train tracks.
Oh, right, yeah.
So what does he do? Of course, is he gets close to it, and it ends up basically transforming him into this.
I actually really like that costume design. It's a really cool design.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Very simplistic, but nice.
So the basic premise of the book is trying to figure out what that is. Another one of them also show up, which is in a different color. And we learn slowly that this is kind of a mantle that has kind of been handed down from person to person. The thing that I will say I was not a huge fan of, and I know I've talked to you about this before, is I like a little bit of a slow burn. I don't mind that at all. Like I don't want a lot of stuff to be revealed up front. I want to kind of work for it. I want to kind of like
Yeah,
learn that later on.
You want to invest in the story and
Like I don't know if you can see this, but like that's when he gets the costume. We're like not even a fourth of the book in, and like he's got the costume. Like I want to live with him a little bit as a character, find out who he is, like as a personality, like get to know him a little bit more. And I don't really feel like we got to sit with him and learn that a little bit. Um, the book towards the middle, I was like, I'm not really a huge fan, to be honest. But as I got towards the end, and he met that other version of himself, the red one, which I'll try to find a picture. And more was revealed. I kind of dug it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely curious to see the second volume. Like here's a couple fight scenes with one of the red ones. And there's a really cool sequence in here. The way the name Radiant Black comes from this sequence, where him and his friend are out in the woods, and it's the training montage, right? Like they're trying to get him to figure out how to use his powers and how to get a hold of his powers. And his friend is his social media manager, so he creates a social media page for him and all that stuff. And then they come up with the name Radiant Black, and he makes fun of it for a couple pages. But it's a cool read. It's interesting.
It feels like a very different take on the superhero genre. It's a little...
Yeah, it definitely is. And like, yeah, obviously it introduces other ones as well. So which kind of reminds me of Power Rangers a little bit. But yeah, it ends on a really weird note, but it ends on an interesting enough note because it shows you the point of view of the red. Not Radiant Black is not their name, but the red version of his character and who that character is. Huh?
Radiant Red.
Radiant Red. And who that character is and where they came from. And it's really, really cool. Okay. Because the first time we meet that red one, they rob a bank and they explode out of a bank. So Radiant Black has to fight them, and he gets his butt handed to him, basically. So it's really interesting. I'm curious to see where it goes. I would say, like, I'm not in the tank for it yet. Yeah. But I have a feeling like Volume 2 will explain a lot more, probably a lot of questions that I have. But if you like different takes, like Cross said, if you like different takes on the superhero genre, I would definitely pick this one up. You can get it for pretty cheap on Amazon or at your local comic store. But yeah, so
nice. It sounds like a cool one, man. It really does.
Yeah, it was cool. I was glad to finally, because I remember when I messaged you about it, you're like, dude, we might do this. This might be the first indie comic club that you actually picked the book. And I was like, no, let's not do this one.
Yeah, and you were like, nah, I'm good. We don't need to do that one. Like, all right. So the next one I had on my list again, kind of like you had like good and bad about it as well. This one I kind of had the same for. And we talked before. It's called I Hate Fairyland from Scotty Young. And the cover pretty much tells you everything you need to know really about what you're getting in for. It's typical Scotty Young fashion. It's a very fantastical, like fairy tale looking world, colourful, bright, Toontown sort of looking place. Yeah. That is completely horrifically over the top violent at the exact same time. If you want to know just how violent, it's the back cover. Yeah. That's like literally the covers. But basically the whole thing, like with this one, is Gert is like a young girl who's like doing her usual typical, being a little girl dancing about her room, typical pink room, everything like that. And then all of a sudden, like her like floor opens up, and it swirls, and she gets sucked through this hole into the brand new world, Fairyland. She ends up at Fairyland, all these magical creatures, and gets told that she's going on a quest. Typical fashion, pretty much for anything. She gets given a little like guide. I can't even remember his name. It's been a while since I've read this one. And she sets off on her journey. Then the next page, it cuts to 27 years later. Dude. Like, because they talk in the background in the first pages, they're like, oh, this should take her about a day or so to do this quest. 27 years later. You got Gertrude, who is like literally maniacal at this point. She is so... Oop, I'll get the pictures in. Like, she has gone crazy. Oh, and you see her there going as well. It's like, well, fluff you and fluff this map. That's the thing as well. She's in Fairyland, so she can't cuss.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just to keep saying other words, they just automatically come out. And that's the thing. She's grown up as well. So like, it's the mind of a 27-year-old woman who's been trapped in this hell of Fairyland for 27 years.
Sheesh.
Basically, looking for a key to get out. Looking for a key to open the door to get out of the place. And it's her adventure to try and find it, to try and get it. And basically, I think it's like there's a cut-off point that comes. It's like it's 27 years almost to the day, and there's like a cut-off of if someone stays there for that certain length of time. Like the Queen of Fairyland has not been able to touch her and just like get rid of her.
Yeah.
So she's gotten more maniacal, more vicious, is like murdering people in Fairyland, and the Queen has not been able to do anything. But now the gauntlets are off and she can go. So the Queen starts sending people to go hunting after her. But Gertrude is just like nasty and vicious. Like she's like swinging her big axe. Like you get dudes like this going after her and stuff.
Dude, that looks so sweet.
Is a lot of it as well is very much. There's a lot of kind of gross out humor stuff to it as well. Like Scotty Young like plays with us so much. You can tell he had fun like writing this book. There's points of like a zombie part that comes into it and stuff, and then you get an interesting part where the Queen, now that Gert's basically able to be attacked, I think there's like a cut off where she's going to get stuck in Fairyland as well.
Yeah.
Because the Queen brings in another little girl to have an adventure in Fairyland. But if this kid finds the door first, Gert gets stuck forever.
Dang.
So it now becomes this whole big thing that Gert is trying to take her on. But this little kid's got like her own kind of set of powers. Like she blasts her like through trees with a rainbow and stuff.
Dang.
So, because Gert's automatic thing is like, well, I'm just going to freaking kill you.
Yeah.
It's like, you're causing me trouble, I'm just going to kill you and just keep doing what I'm doing. And like, and she blasts her, so now she has to compete with this little girl to get the key, to try and like get to the door. And I kind of want to give away the ending of this one because like this book, like everything about this sounded amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was. I don't know if I was in a weird mood reading it or something. Because even going back over it, I'm like, this sounds phenomenal. Why did I not like this as much?
Yeah.
Something about it just didn't click with me. And I'm like, I might need to give this one a reread actually, because
it's kind of like Radiant Black for me. It sounded really cool, but it just, I don't know, there was something about it that didn't register with me.
But the ending of it seems to be really cool, because the ending of it is basically she like raises up like this massive demon monster from the pits of hell of Fairyland.
Holy crap.
Like to take her on and stuff, and like basically makes a deal with her to like get his powers and stuff. So you end up with like this going on. Which the artwork is sweet in this. I mean,
yeah, it looks
Scott
awesome.
Young's phenomenal. She ends up fighting the little girl and wins, which outright just murders her. Opens the ground and it swallows her.
Dang.
So she gets the key and she can leave. Opens the door. Is about to walk through. Kills the Queen.
Dang.
And the little guy like that was travelling about with her, the little Jiminy Cricket-esque character,
yeah,
freaks out because right as she turns around to go through the door slams, locks, disappears, and you just see him sighing, and he's like, if someone kills the Queen of Fairyland, they automatically become the Queen of Fairyland themselves. So it literally ends with her on the front.
Dang.
I fluffing hate Fairyland. So it didn't hit me in the same way as I thought it was gonna. Like I was expecting, I don't know, I just didn't get the oomph from it. But at the same time, it was good enough that I want to pick up volume 2.
Yeah.
And I want to see what happens. Like, okay, the whole first volume is establishing like her stuck in Fairyland, and I thought that was going to be the premise. I thought we were going to follow that, and she was like basically this little girl brought in to go on this quest, and she ends up being the villain.
Yeah.
And no, she's now the Queen of Fairyland. So I'm like, I want to see where that concept goes. But yeah,
That's sweet, dude. That sounds actually really interesting.
Yeah, and the art for it is phenomenal. 100%. I will forewarn anyone who wants to pick it up, though. It is 100% gross out art. Like, Scotty Young pushes the limits of how violent he can be in this, and obviously that's just to play off of the fact of like it's this fairy tale world.
Yeah.
With these creatures being massacres.
Dude, that's hilarious. It definitely sounds interesting. I might have to borrow that from you one time.
Yeah, I'll give you a loan it, man. Alright, what else you got for us?
Alright, so my next one is an oldie. I don't know if I would call it a goodie, but it's an oldie. It was 1994.
Ooh.
I've been looking for this one for a while, and I saw it. I think I saw it at Second and Charles, and I had to pick it up. So obviously, Spawn versus Batman. So Frank Miller and Todd McFarlane. Frank Miller wrote, Todd McFarlane drew. It's a very thin comic. I don't know if you could see this.
Yeah, it's released kind of like in the hardcover of like a trade, but it's actually more like a single issue.
Yeah, it's definitely a single issue. So I mean, the premise is pretty simple. The main point of the comic is to show the differentiation between Spawn and Batman, though they are both heroes, so to speak. Spawn more of an anti-hero. Batman has a code that he doesn't kill. Spawn, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
So, Batman hears like whispers of this thing killing people in New York, although the people that he's killing are bad people. And then he meets the person doing it, which is Spawn, and they fight, and the art is just normal Todd McFarlane, just bananas. Like, obviously he's exaggerated some of his characters, like, I don't know if you could see Alfred there.
Yeah.
It's peak McFarlane. Like, his Spawn obviously is on point. It's just bananas. It's a bananas book. I don't know what I was expecting. It was about, I guess, what I was expecting. Him and Spawn end up getting into a brutal fight, which is awesome. And it happens multiple times. Not really a whole lot to say about this comic.
Nah, crossovers are interesting.
Frank Miller is a god among comic book writers, and Todd McFarlane is a god among comic book artists. But this book, it's not that great.
Frank Miller is also back crap crazy though.
He is, dude. He is.
Like when you're talking about Frank Miller, like, is this good Frank Miller, like phenomenal, top of his class Frank Miller, or is this back crap crazy, like off the rails Frank Miller? Because they're very two different things.
I mean, you could tell, like, they got in a room together and, like, we're gonna do whatever we want, and we're just gonna push it to the limit. I mean, look.
Yeah. And that's the thing, a lot of these crossovers in the 90s were like that, though. Like, crossover between publishers.
Yeah.
Like, you get some of that now, and it's done a lot well, and they put a lot of effort into it, but especially during the 90s and early 2000s runs, there wasn't a lot put into them. It was literally selling the book based upon it's Spawn and Batman.
Yeah.
These two characters are meeting. That was literally, like, I mean, that's the reason you picked it up. Is like, that's the reason everybody picked it up when it came out.
Spawn. I love Batman. Dude, they're together. Heck yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was Image and DC going, let's make some money.
Yeah. And I recently picked up this one. This is a different one. This is Batman and Spawn. It's called War Devil, and this is by Doug Mensch and Chuck Dixon.
Chuck Dixon, yeah.
Yeah, this one reads a little more like realistic. I don't know how else to say that. Realistic. A little more tamed down. Obviously, it's still brutal. It's Spawn, you know. So I'm in the process of reading this one right now. I'm glad I read the Frank Miller, Todd McFarlane Spawn versus Batman, because I've been wanting to read it for a while. But I mean, it is what you expect. It's just bad crap crazy. Like 20 pages of just bad crap crazy one shot Spawn Batman story. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so you did an oldie. I'm going to do some newies.
Oh.
So I'm going to take the advantage to do these ones all together because they're all single issues that I picked up, but I feel like they need to be mentioned because some of these I thoroughly enjoyed. First of all, before I talk about any of them, I want to shout out to Tom Levine if he's still in chat. Beckett's Last Mixtape, one of the comics we picked up this year. Absolutely adore this comic. Thoroughly enjoy it. I'm not going to say too much about it now if you want to hear more on our thoughts on it. We did do an interview with Tom Levine where we talked a lot about the comic.
Yeah.
But thoroughly enjoyed this. My official kind of recommendation on it was it's 13 reasons why wishes it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
And dealing with a main character that's thinking about suicide.
Yeah.
Brutal in the sense of like it keeps it very real, but at the same time it's like it's a really relatable story. The characters are really relatable, friendly, nice, and the artwork is just stunning.
Yeah.
So 100% go and check that out. Beckett's last mixtape. So I just wanted to do that shout out. I don't want to spend a lot of time in that, just because like we've done a whole show talking about it.
Yeah.
So please go and check it. And if I'm smart enough and remember to do so for YouTube, I'll put a link up in the corner. And if not, I've forgotten all about it. So don't worry about it. It's not important. You can just search. This one I literally picked up a couple of weeks ago, and I have to mention, because I thoroughly enjoyed this first issue, and I really want to see what they do with it. It's called Do a Powerbomb.
Yes, dude, that looks so cool.
From Image Comics, and it's about wrestling from Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer. This is a creation of Daniel Warren Johnson, who wrote it and I believe did the main art for it. And basically it's a really interesting setup. It's only the first issue, but the characters that you start off with is like the main wrestler, who she's the world champion and going out to face her main opponent, her big rival, and defend her title. And basically she dies in the ring, and the story jumps forward to her daughter, who was there with her now, being old enough and starting to wrestle. You get some really interesting character moments in this, because we spend a lot of time at the start of the issue establishing the family.
Yeah.
Establishing they have a really good relationship, they're really supportive, like her dad and her are there to support her mom, they go out for the match and stuff, and you get some interesting dynamics of her being older and a wrestler, her dad coming to her, and we find that he's done this quite frequently lately, coming to her and telling her to stop wrestling. Obviously, you know, her dad's lost her mom in the ring and doesn't want to see his daughter do the same thing.
Yeah.
So he's very much wanting to stop her. And she's basically like, I'm going to keep training, I'm going to go where I can, but like everywhere she goes, no one is taking her on to train her, no one's wanting to put her in the ring, because there's a whole stigma to her mom, with her mom having died in the ring.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I found a little weird on it, was like nobody's like taking her on and training her and stuff like that. It's like, I know her mom died in the ring, but it's like it's something that can happen.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't happen frequently, but it's something that can happen. And that's, the people are going to remember that regardless of whether or not her daughter's like wrestling or not. So like, I'm surprised nobody's taking her on. It's like the daughter taking up the mantle of her mom who died in the ring. I'm like, that sounds like it would put butts in seats to me personally, but
Heck yeah, dude.
But basically she ends up getting approached at the end of the issue by this dark cloaked figure, this guy in a black suit, who wants to offer her the opportunity to wrestle in a special contest, and basically offers her that if she wins the tournament, she can bring her mom back. And that's pretty much where the issue ends.
So there's like a supernatural element to it.
There's a whole supernatural element to it that's not been revealed fully yet.
Yeah.
The thing that really intrigued me with this book is, like, I grew up as a wrestling fan. I was a wrestling fan for a long time. Still am to a certain degree, although a lot of the stuff that's out there is crap right now. In my personal opinion, a lot of crap happening in the wrestling business. But
Yeah.
But the thing that really intrigued me with this, because it was something I always wondered, because WWE, like, you know, I've always put out like wrestling comics recently and stuff, and I always wonder with that, how do you portray wrestling in a comic?
Yeah.
It's
right?
a very
It's
visual
visceral.
sport. You're watching this visual, like, you know, show taking place. How do you put that in static images? And I was very much a big fan of how Daniel Warren Johnson did this. Because we get to see a lot of the match between our main character's mom and her opponent, and their whole fight. In the fight, we get to meet the characters first, and it's almost like a slow build to get to the ring, and then she tells her story, you know, how proud she is to be here and defending their belt, and then you get the two of them actually fighting. And I don't know if it's the emotional build to it or what it is, but like, it feels like very real.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like I'm actually watching it, like I can see it happening. It doesn't feel like I'm just watching a static image and watching like, oh, I wish they were actually moving around. It's done in a very real way, and I think it's because it puts just enough of the wrestling on the page to catch you, because it's a wrestling book.
Yeah.
And also the fact if you get enough of the storyline of the family. And Daniel Warren Johnson, absolutely phenomenal as well. There's a little blurb at the back he talks about, like, he's a full wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Like he says that he used to walk with his kid at night and he would put the TV on and he would be watching. And the funny thing is, it shows here, is he watched a lot of Japanese wrestling. If you don't know Japan wrestling, it's a very different animal from like American wrestling, like WWE, AEW, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like in New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling, when it was around F1, like they're a very different animal. Japanese wrestling is a very different thing. And you can see stuff like even in this, like it's a very Japanese wrestling feel to it. Even just down to something simple, like when the mom gets in the ring, everybody starts throwing like the streamers in celebration because she's like the big hero, and that was a show of respect. And it's like, it's really cool that that's it. Like, he's not just pulling from, oh, I grew up watching WWE. It's like, no, this guy's watching stuff that most wrestling fans don't watch.
Yeah.
And if you go to his like social media, he even posts stuff about wrestling.
That's cool.
That he's a wrestling fan and going to shows and stuff. So it's like, it's very cool because you can see like this isn't just somebody trying to tell a story. It's like it's something else he's passionate about that he's bringing into this story element, and it's like it's done very well.
That's awesome.
So I would highly recommend that. Issue 1 out. I don't think issue 2's out yet, but I would highly recommend Do a Power Bomb and going and picking it up. Absolutely
that
phenomenal.
seems really cool. Yeah, because I grew up in wrestling too. I wasn't as like hardcore about it as a lot of people were, but like during obviously the Attitude Era, WCW, WWE. That's really cool, man.
Yeah. Last couple I want to kind of mention just single issues. This one, it's not got a title in the front. I got a variant of it when I finally picked it up. This is Grim from Boom Studios. A really interesting take on the kind of the Grim Reaper-esque characters. Our main character is basically a Grim Reaper who we see getting a soul from a car crash, kind of introducing her that way, and she doesn't really have memories. All the other Reapers do, but she doesn't seem to.
Yeah.
I apologise, I'm literally throwing this one out. I don't remember that much on it and talking about it. All we know is like the guy that she brings in like tries to make a break for it and manages to get her scythe and runs off, and the issue ends with him getting back to the real world, trying to get back to his life, and then all of a sudden like she is all of a sudden able to be seen by people around her. Like somebody grabs her and stops her even though they've not been able to see her. Honestly, there wasn't a lot more than that to issue 1. It wasn't like a massive amount of stuff. It kind of just built the world a little bit. We got to see a little bit of where the Reapers were, different things. It was okay.
Yeah.
I was expecting a lot more from it, I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, it's a first issue. It intrigues me enough that I want to check out the story.
Yeah.
But I wasn't totally fussed on it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Like
compared to like reading something like Do a Power Bomb, where it was like I got invested in it. This one, like, not as much, but it was still a cool story. If you like that supernatural Grim Reaper-esque story, I would definitely recommend it. I think issue 2 is out of it. I've not gotten issue 2 yet, but
that's awesome.
And then last one, I'm not going to talk too much about because I'm hopefully going to get him back on the show to talk a bit more about it. Was Savage Avengers.
Heck yeah.
From our good friend Dave Pepos. Since the last time we spoke to him on the show, has now became a big fancy writer for Marvel. Writing Savage Avengers, writing a little bit of the Elektra Red, White and Blood book, or Black, White and Blood, something like that. Writing the Moon Knight Black, White and Blood book, and is going to be writing stuff for Fantastic Four going into the next big event. But this is the big one he pushed, Savage Avengers. This is his pet project, his team, basically led by Conan the Barbarian.
Nice.
Featuring Elektra's Daredevil, Black Knight, Deathlock, Weapon H, Anti-Venom or Agent Anti-Venom, Flash Thompson, and then Cloak and Dagger. The first issue of it is basically a little bit of all the characters, where they are, and showing how they all come together. And basically the storyline that brings them all together ends up taking them back to like Conan's like time. And to his world. So basically it takes most of the characters, instead of Conan being like the fish out of water in his own world, it's the rest of them.
Dang.
So that's where the issue kind of goes, and it's like I'm intrigued to see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting like realm of characters. Obviously, they're characters that Dave really wanted to work with. If he watches social media, he talks highly about choosing the characters that he did, and it's very much like the fan of the low tier characters and wanting to show them love and appreciation.
Yeah.
Which he absolutely does in this book. The intriguing thing I'm looking to find out, it says I think the first volume ends with issue 5. He's mentioned, but I'd be really interested to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Because it's recently been announced that Marvel have lost the publishing rights to Conan.
Really?
So it's going to be a new publisher as of 2023.
Dang.
So I'd be really intrigued to see like if this is going to go forward still without Conan. In another way, or if it's just going to be he ends up doing other books because he's already working on other projects there. So I'd be really intrigued. But yeah, it's worth a check out. You know, it's like I picked it up for Dave Peppo's. Like the first issue's enough to kind of intrigue of what's going on. I think
I have it. I haven't read it yet, but I have it. It's been sitting on my. I haven't wanted to open it. I'm like he's big time now.
I know.
But yeah.
All right, but I'll hand over to you. You can do your next book.
Yeah, so I mean, I know we're getting close to time, so this will probably be my last one that I review. I have a couple more, but I'll put them in that list. I've been creating a list as we've been talking, so
nice.
Amazon list for everybody who's interested in the stuff that we talked about today.
Yeah, and anything that we don't go into, we'll put in the list, but we'll also just shout out like we've read these and thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah, exactly. So this next one was one that you and I talked about. Well, you more so, but I had never read a Transformers comic ever. Like I'd watched the show. Obviously, I was a huge fan of Transformers. Had a ton of the toys. I love the movies, all that stuff. Okay, I liked the movies. Okay.
I was gonna say it's like
I appreciated the movies.
Are we gonna have a falling out here? Because like loving the Transformers movie is not an okay thing. Like I'm sorry.
But apparently, so IDW came out in I think 2012, I think, with a curated volume of Transformers comics that told a story.
Which tells you how long they've been going, because this compendium dropped in like 2012, so that's how long they've been going since before then.
Yeah, and when I looked into it, so this volume that I picked up is over 400 pages. There are, I think, over 20 volumes in Phase 1. There are currently 3 or 4 phases. 3 now. I think 3 is the most recent one. Just an ungodly amount of content. And that's
I'd like to point out as well, like as Nitro said, that's compendiums. Hold up the compendium, show them the size of it.
It's huge. This is a textbook. This is like a legitimate textbook.
Like 3 phases, with the first phase having about 20 odd books in it, like at that size.
So I'm going to be honest, this is probably, I don't know if this is my favorite that I read, but this is close.
It's on my list. I really want to pick it up. I just don't ever have $35 to spare at one time to pick it up.
It's so good. So the only negative thing I will say is that if you read this at night, like obviously you're dealing with Transformers. There's a lot of close-up shots. It's really hard to make out some of the art if you're reading it at night. That's the only negative thing I literally have to say about it. It starts off basically with the introduction of Megatron, how Megatron became Megatron. And it shows how the Decepticons became a thing, and how the badge of the Decepticons became a thing, because the Autobots had already been established. And the cool thing that I like about it is they kind of paint the Autobot, the ruling class, basically the Autobots, at like borderline like fascists almost. Like they don't paint them in the greatest of light. And not like Optimus Prime or anything like that, but Sentinel Prime, the dude who came before Optimus Prime. Like, he's the leader, and he takes no crap. Like, he is like, I will murder anyone I have to in order to push our nation or whatever forward. It's definitely, like, it's cool the way that they make Megatron at first, like, a very sympathetic, like, oh, I can understand why he became the way he became. Which is amazing because I've said it plenty of times, sympathetic villain. If you can do that and get it right, it just elevates your villain so much. Yeah. So there's a through line in the comic of Megatron coming to power, gathering his Decepticon army. That's the very simple premise of this book. But dotted in there are one-shots of characters. Like, they have one-shots of Starscream, Blur, who is the ambulance Autobot. Forgot his name. Ratchet,
Uh,
Bumblebee, characters that we all know and love.
Challenging my knowledge there, man, with that one. It's like...
I know. It's characters that we all know and love, and how they join one side or the other, the Decepticons or the Autobots, and how they push that narrative forward. And there is some freaking awesome battle scenes. Grimlock, obviously, the Dinobots are in here. Soundwave, Shockwave. There's one shot of Soundwave and Shockwave, which Soundwave is my favorite Decepticon. I love him. But yeah, man, it's so cool. There's obviously some cool human characters in it as well. Not like Sam Witwicky. They're actually compelling. And there's this whole storyline. Like, the art is incredible.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, man.
It's just it's incredible. I think there's different artists for each, like, throughout the book.
There probably is, because a lot of the one shows probably had different artists, and then depending on how many of the main storyline there was, you might have had artist swaps.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know what else I can say about this because it covers a ton. It's over 400 pages. I read this in probably 4 days because I was like, it's incredible.
yeah,
Like,
you
I
were
could not put it
invested,
down.
man. You were messaging me saying how much you were enjoying it, and then it was
Dude,
like
it's
all of a sudden you were done.
it's so good. And at the same time, I bought the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles IDW collection, Volume 1, with Raphael on the front, and that is great too. I haven't read it as fast as I read this, but man, it's fantastic. If you love Transformers, I can't recommend this enough. I have this second volume already in my cart, ready to go. It's really, really cool. It's really
Yeah.
cool, and it tells a really, really cool story.
Yeah, the Transformers comics are one of those comics that it feels almost like daunting to get into because of how many
Yeah.
there are now, but I'm like, I need to at some point pick it up.
Yeah.
I need to just get it.
It's funny because it starts off they're in a mining colony, and Megatron is just one of the miners, and he's trying to mine Energon. And so you have the Autobot, or the leading faction, is kind of like sitting around with weapons, making sure that they don't get out of line. And there ends up being like a riot, and Megatron ends up killing one of the guards. And he's doing it, he's not being malicious at the moment. Like, he's basically fighting for his life. He's trying to get out of there, fighting for his life. But then how that transforms him into this leader. Like, he gets into this, basically there's this, like, it's crazy because there's this like robot fight club in Transformers in the city, like an underground fight club to the death. And then he starts fighting in that league, and he becomes like the gladiator du jour. Like, he starts wrecking shop everybody, and then he starts upgrading his armor little by little. And then you see him get the cannon, and then you see him get the mace, and then he finally gets the Decepticon symbol painted on him. It's just really, really, really cool.
That's awesome, man. Honestly,
Yeah.
it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely pick that one up, guys. That's a phenomenal.
Yeah,
That sounds
absolutely.
awesome. All right, I'm probably gonna do one last one as well then, before we like fire these off. This one is called 7 Secrets. This is from Tom Taylor, one of my favourite writers, so I absolutely wanted to pick this up and check it out. And Daniel De Niculo and Walter Beaumont. I'm probably murdering those names drastically.
Oh, there
but
you go.
but I mean, the artwork in this is phenomenal. Even like for the get-go, I mean, that's like the first page I turned on to.
Heck yeah, dude.
The art in this is absolutely stunning, if nothing else. And basically the whole premise of it is there's a secret organization that is protecting 7 secrets, like literally as it says in the tin. Yeah, I read this in the back, so Bob actually does quite a good job of it here. For centuries, the Order has trusted in keepers and holders to guard the secrets in 7 briefcases against all harm. Keepers and holders are basically, there's 7 secrets and they're protected by teams of 2. The holder is literally the person that holds the briefcase. Like, it is literally like cuffed to them, stick with them. You are not allowed to let this out. You're a grasp. And then the keeper is the one who protects them. Is the one who will like defend them, fight them, try and like allow them to get away if they're attacked. You know, whatever they do to protect the secret.
Yeah.
It says, but when their stronghold is attacked and the secret is put in peril, the entire Order must face their greatest fear, an enemy who knows too much and is willing to kill to get what he wants. Now the Order's newest member, Casper, must discover the truth of the secrets before the enemy does, or risk losing everything. So Casper's a ride-along character. That's him on the back, holding the briefcase 7.
Okay.
And basically he ends up being born to a seeker and a keeper. His mom and dad are like a seeker and keeper of one of the secrets. And they end up falling in love and having that, but that's against what the Order wants. They don't want people doing that, because you must want nothing, love nothing more than the secrets. These secrets are so big or so massive that you have to basically give up your life to protect them. So he ends up growing up with his mom and dad being told to stay away, essentially. Like, he's raised by the Order, but they're not really allowed to make contact with him, because they're not allowed to get attached, and they want to avoid him getting an attachment, because they are still protecting one of the secrets. And as he grows up, basically at the very beginning, we find out his father gets killed by a member of the Order who basically is like, who's turned one of those classic, like, the person who was working with him turns and is now on the villain side. And he uses all his knowledge to basically, he wants to reveal what the secrets are. He wants to unleash them. That often gets shut down a few issues in, because the organisation he's with, he finds out, is actually wanting to just destroy them. So it's the Order being attacked on their terms, and we follow Casper as he gets older. He trains and he competes to become a holder, and because there's an open position, and he becomes the holder of the 7th secret. And it's really cool as well. I love what they do with the briefcases. I'm trying to see if I can find the designs, but each of them like represent 1 to 7 like on it, but it's different. Like, I think this is a really cool cover as well, but it kind of shows it. So like the first case is like a Roman numeral 1, but then like the second case is a beta from the Greek alphabet. And then the 7th case is just a number 7, and like so basically, like, it represents like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it's not exactly that. Which I thought was just a really cool design choice. It kind of gives it a worldwide sort of feel to it. But yeah, so Casper basically becomes a seeker, or a holder. I always get them muddled up. You know what I mean? And he basically takes over, competes, wins, gets a chance to have the case, but is then thrown into utter chaos because they get attacked. So the Order has to abandon where they are, and the whole thing is that the Order goes to like a secret keep that is protected, and it is basically off the books to try and protect themselves. And as we go, we start to meet the other holders and keepers. We start to get to know them, what their personalities are like, who they are. All this time, like, I got up to like, it was chapter 6, issue 6 here, I think it's the last one. No idea what the secrets are.
Dang.
Like, none of them are revealed until like the very end of chapter 6, I think it is. One of the cases gets opened. I'm trying to find the spot where it happens. Yeah, I think it's here. So it's the holders of the 3rd case. So they ask them to open the 3rd case, and they do, and
dang,
this portal appears, and to escape they all go into it. I'm trying to find it. It takes them to kind of like this other world. It's almost like a Rainbow Road looking place.
Almost looks like anime like style.
Yeah.
A bit.
Speaking of anime, there you go as well. There's the 3rd briefcase, the Japanese 3.
Nice.
So I just when you said anime, they're like, oh yeah, there is actually a Japanese letter in there. But it's this other world to it. And Casper gets like, they're setting up stuff, and I really don't know where they're going with this one, but he gets called off the main road of it. He meets like these guys. I don't know exactly what their deal is yet, because it's like right at the end of the issue. But they start talking to him, and he ends up like running off, and it kind of ends there. But the whole setup of it basically is because we don't know what these secrets are. I mean, like, building up to this point, for all we knew, these secrets were bits of paper with like the biggest secrets in the world, and I'm like, no, these are like way beyond. These are supernatural powered things.
Yeah.
Like, because you think the third one opens this portal to this world, and it's like, what did the other 6 do? Like, what in the world did these do?
Dude, that seems just super interesting.
And I'm like, and I think it's actually just finished. I want to say the series is just finished. The last issue dropped a little while ago, maybe a month or 2 ago.
Dude, that's sweet.
So it's a full series if you want to check it out. It's called 7 Secrets, and Tom Taylor does a really good job building the world. And I'm like, I'm definitely intrigued to see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's awesome, man.
Alright, so do we want a bullet point the last ones and just kind of talk about the others and mention them?
Yeah, so honorable mention for me towards the end, which I for just mainly for time reasons, but I just finished this baby. So Donny Cates, Venom, his run on Venom, Volume 1. I'm a huge Venom fan. He's one of my favorite characters growing up. So I wanted to read one of the best runs, apparently, of Venom, and I was not disappointed. So obviously introduces Null, who, if you don't know, is basically he's the ruler of the symbiote planet, basically, and he's just a bad mofo.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really cool the way that they do that. Yeah, I really liked it. I'm definitely getting the second volume. The other one was obviously Lock and Key. This is all 6 volumes of Lock and Key. I finally finished that this year.
We didn't even get into Lock and Key. Like, I had Lock and Key chapter 3 on mine. I read volume 3. I've still to read the other half of it.
Dude, if you guys have not read Lock and Key, I would definitely recommend it. It's probably my favorite comic I think I've ever read. I don't know. It's up there. It's really, really good, and it tells a complete story over 6 volumes. It's so good.
Absolutely, and if you want to check it out, I don't know why that's doubling up again. That's doing that weird thing. It does that every so often. But if you want to click on that link and head over to our YouTube channel under the Indie Comic Book Club list, you can actually, if you want to find out about Lock and Key, if you don't know about the comics, our very first one was talking about Lock and Key Volume 1.
Yeah.
Back in October 2020. So go ahead and check that out if you want a word on it. But yeah, I think we both are massive fans of Lock and Key and would highly recommend the series.
Yeah,
like I pretty much just finishing up Volume 3, and I'm excited to read the 4, 5, and 6. And
if you have watched the show and not read the comic, stop watching the show and read the comic.
The comic is so much better.
It's so much better. And I know everybody always says the book is better, but it legitimately is. And it's
legitimately is 100% better. It's so good.
Yeah. So those are my honorable mentions. I put we're making a list as we speak.
Yeah.
And I put basically the compendium, so all 6 volumes of Lock and Key in there.
So quick honorable mention as well. I just wanted to mention that we'd read it. I'm not going to go any details into it. Was Mouse volumes 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And we did them for the Indie Comic Book Club. Obviously, we spent 2 episodes of Indie Comic Book Club talking about Mouse 1 and 2. And if you have not read this yet, 100% pick this up. This is one of my top books.
Yeah. One
of my top comics ever that I've read. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It hit me so much more in the feels than I thought it was gonna. It was so good. The story of Art Spiegelman's father going through the World War II, going to concentration camps, living as a Jew in Poland and being captured by Nazis. Like, it's such a powerful story. So if you've not heard us talk about it and not picked it up for yourself yet, pick it up. Mention as the show just came out recently, I've read Umbrella Academy Volume 3, Hotel Oblivion. It was okay. I wasn't blown away with it. I felt like it was a setup book. You know, like, because one of the things as well is like even like the Raven or the Sparrow Academy that's in season 3 right now.
Yeah.
They are like hinted at heavily, but they don't show up until like the very end of the book, like properly.
Yeah.
It's all about the hotel, and like they're all off doing their own separate things, and it's following their journeys and following a couple of villains trying to get out of Hotel Oblivion, wherever the dimension it's in.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's one of my least favourite of the Umbrella Academy stories so far. It still has the same weirdness and bizarreness that Jared Way's known for. It's kind of hard to think Umbrella Academy was kind of like one of my first forays into like the indie comic book world. It's kind of weird to think it used to be one of my favourites, and I'm like, the first one still really has a special place for me.
Yeah.
I almost feel the opposite. I've not seen season 3, so I can't mention it for the show, but the storyline for season 1 I feel like was probably better because it didn't go quite as cartoony with a little bit of it with the Apocalypse suite. The second season of the show I prefer way more to the second book.
Really?
I enjoyed it a lot more than that. I think maybe because it is a bit more grounded. But then the third one, I'm like, I've not even watched season 3 of it, and I probably prefer season 3 to the show. I'm like, I feel like it's gone down in quality, and maybe it's just my tastes are changing. Maybe I was just really in a place for Umbrella Academy when I first read it, and it still holds a good place, but I've read so many great indie comics now.
That's interesting, because I remember when we first started talking indie comics, you had like unending praise for Umbrella Academy.
I still do for the first one. I think for me it was my first foray into other type of superhero genre and going into it, and like if you read Umbrella Academy, there is nothing like it in Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
Nothing like it. It is completely different from that. It's completely different from a lot of stuff in indie. But it's not alone in the indie world. There are stories like it. There are stories that push it.
Yeah.
It's definitely got its very own tone to it, but I'm like, of all the stuff we're reading now, I don't feel like it's as much.
Yeah.
Hey, Sparkles Queen Michelle, how is it going? But yeah, so like Umbrella Academy Volume 3, I wasn't massive.
Yeah.
Like sold on. Like I finished it, but I felt like I was forcing myself to finish it more than anything.
I hate that.
Rather than actually like enjoying it and wanting to keep reading it.
Yeah, I get that. I get what you're saying.
Sorry, I'm desperately trying to spell that properly there.
It's all good. Speaking of 12-sided, Locksteady can help us with that API error thing.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that. It's like, Lock's offered a few times, but it disappears.
Yeah.
And it's like, let me do Chunk the Hut as well, because I'm not actually shifted him out yet. But yeah, it's like, I don't know why that pops up, like the API error one, especially like because it doesn't do it all the time. It's only certain times it does it. And then my last couple to shout out are actually established properties. I read the first volume of the Assassin's Creed comic.
Nice.
Which was really enjoyable. I enjoyed it. It wasn't like phenomenal or anything, but I enjoyed it because it's introducing the Assassin's Creed world if you're used to it and you know it. Which, if anyone knows me, I'm a massive Assassin's Creed fan. I love the Assassin's Creed stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a different set of characters and a different kind of setting.
Yeah.
The jaunt into the past is interesting because it's set during the Salem witch trials.
Oh, cool.
So, and it's all about trying to find. You think there's an assassin that's like turned and sold them out to the Templars, and is sold them out on where a piece of Eden is, which is one of the big like MacGuffins for the Assassin's Creed world.
Yeah.
And basically they enlist this chick. What's her name? Charlotte. I couldn't remember her first name there. Charlotte Dela Cruz. It's a C Dela Cruz. I don't know what the first name is of Charlotte. But they enlist Charlotte Dela Cruz to basically help them because her ancestor lines up with his. And hoping that she can tell them where this piece of Eden is so that they can connect.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Sparkle Queen. I appreciate it. Says she loves my accent.
I know, everybody does, Sparkles. It's okay.
You're just a normal, typical American accent.
You got the boring, standard, non-distinguishable regional accent.
But overall, like, I'm excited to pick up more and check out more of the series. It wasn't like mind-blowing or phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. And then the last one is a first foray to me. If you know me and the stuff, especially down in there about us, Bio Tales of Doctor Who is my favourite TV show. I absolutely adore Doctor Who. This is the 12th Doctor in comic form, my absolute favourite Doctor. I love Peter Capaldi's take on the Doctor. Myself and Jay are watching through it at the moment. And this was like the first foray into comics. It was an interesting take on it. Like, the artwork's pretty okay in it. It's not like phenomenal or anything, but it's still pretty decent.
Okay.
You know, and the story was okay. The story was really intriguing. It's one of those things, like Assassin's Creed might have had the same problem as well, but with Doctor Who, it's a big thing going from watching the TV show kind of like what I talked about with Do a Powerbomb, like going
Yeah.
from the TV show and the high-paced, high-functioning part of it to slow-paced kind of like reading through the story.
Mm-hmm.
It feels a bit better.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't feel like it clicks and runs quite the same. But the storylines were interesting. I definitely enjoyed them for what they were. I thought there was good inclusion. I mean, it's like I thought they got the characters spot on. Like they felt like they portrayed, like they are in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to pick up more and check it out, especially some of the other Doctors as well.
Yeah.
Because I love Doctor Who, and it's like getting to see more of the Doctor's adventures that you don't get to see on the screen. I'm definitely up for.
Yeah.
But I wasn't blown away by it. So honestly, a bit of a mixed bag and stuff. I've been reading, some of the stuff's been okay, not phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the stuff that has been phenomenal has really popped.
Yeah, I'm really interested to read that Powerbomb story because I love wrestling, and I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, from what I've seen,
And that East of West, and Do a Powerbomb are the top two for me that I want to read.
yeah, I think Do a Powerbomb definitely is going to be interesting, and East of West I'm definitely hooked on. I love it. I definitely want to see where it goes, and it's only 10 volumes. It's not a lot. You know, it's like that's one of the cool things about some of these indie stories is knowing that, like, if I start picking up like the run currently for like you said, Venom.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to read the whole of Venom, I'm going to be buying forever.
Yeah.
But like East of West, I know there's a beginning, middle, and an end, and I've really started to appreciate stories like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that I've got a beginning, a middle, and an end to them. But yeah, is there any other comics that you're looking to pick up, or any that are standing out to you?
One that you recommended to me a while back was Mask. And that based off, well, the Jim Carrey movie obviously is based off of the comic, but the comic is way more intense, shall we say?
Way more graphic, violent.
Yeah, way
crazy.
more graphic and mature. That's definitely been in my list. What else? Donny Cates, Volume 2, Venom. Also, there's one from Jeff Lemire, Black Hammer, which you showed me right before stream that you had.
Yeah, I've got
and
it
I did
sitting
not know
behind
that.
me.
Black Hammer, I definitely want to read, and I really want to read Invincible Volume 2, man, because I'm really interested to see where that goes.
Yeah, I've got Invincible Volume 2 as well. Like, I'm intrigued as well because I think it's like into Volume 3, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Before like we actually get to what is basically an episode 1 of Invincible, which is the reveal of Omni-Man.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued to see how it plays out in the comics.
Yeah.
For my list, a couple of stuff that I'm looking at, I'm definitely looking to get the Transformers Compendium. Like, I really want to pick that up. Just getting the spare like bucks to buy a comic that's that expensive at that size, I just don't have handy. Otherwise, 100% I would have picked it up already. But like 100%, that's on my list.
Yeah.
Once in Future, I talked about a kind of story from Boom Studios about Arthurian legend.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting massive high praise. So I definitely want to pick that up and check it. I think Volume 4 just came out recently for that.
I'm looking it up right now.
That movie was based on a comic book. What movie, Chunk? Whatever movie it is, probably.
Oh, Mask. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's based on a comic, the Mask comic. Yeah, 100%. Mask is an interesting one. Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff I've got on my indie list. Let me pull it up. I should have had it up and ready. I should have. Professional Twitch streamer, ladies and gentlemen.
How dare you?
But those two are definites for me. Indie trade lists, because that's where all my stuff basically comes from now. Birthright from Joshua Williamson was an interesting one about a kid that disappears and like comes back after spending like 30 years in a fantasy world.
Dang.
But it's not been 30 years in the real time, it's been like 1. Then there was that one Black Sands that I posted on social media about from the Black Sands Entertainment Black Creator and stuff. I definitely want to check that one out. There's tons of stuff on this list. I want to just kind of like put it up and just scroll through them. Those are probably the major ones that I'm looking at right now. I go through periods where I'm like, there's certain ones that stand out to me. I'm like, oh yeah, I need to get that. Yeah, I need to get that. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the major ones for now as I'm looking at. You know, in pretty much any series that I've read or talked about, the sequels to them are always in like the forefront, like East of West and Undiscovered Country, I Hate Fairyland, all that sort of stuff, like picking up the sequels to them.
Yeah.
Oh, that was another one, Wicked and Divine.
Wicked and Divine?
Yeah, the Wicked and the Divine. Man, I talked about it when we went out for dinner that night. It's basically the rebirth of gods, like every so many years, like the gods are reborn.
Oh yeah, I added that to my list. I have that on there. And
they're currently pop stars. I think it's the current iteration, but like they end up dying off and being reborn into new forms where they get new fans and new subjects to praise them. Yeah, I was really intrigued by that concept again, because talking about the mythology and stuff like that. Same as you, I love mythology and all the sort of lore around it. So I was very intrigued by that and like ancient gods in the modern day.
Yeah.
But not like, oh, they're still here, but we just don't talk about them. No, they rebirth themselves in a way where they're still going to get praised. And I'm like, a really intriguing subject.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
But yeah, it's like, so there's a bunch of great stuff out there.
Yeah. Like, indie comics is where it's at, man. You introduced me into the world, and it's been great, man. There's some really cool stuff. That's
it, though. It's like, honestly, I was getting bored with Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Yep.
Thanks for the lurks, Sparkles Queen, and ads subbing again. Keeping up that part of the Nation of Geeks with 17 months in a row. Dang, dude, that is a long time.
OG.
Yeah, man. Az has been here literally since like day one.
He really has.
Pretty sure he was one of the first people in our chat, like on the first day we did a podcast. If he has not been here since day one, it at least feels like he's been here pretty much that whole time. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the comics that we've been reading.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of stuff. I've been getting through a lot of comics, man.
Holy cow, I can't believe how much I've read this year.
Yeah, man. Absolute bunch. So I'm scrolling through Twitch just to see who's on, if there's anyone as we build up to a raid. I'm trying to do it in advance this time, so I'm not doing it last minute. But yeah, that's pretty much been us for the day. Pretty chilled out stream because we've got a lot of big stuff coming up in the month of July for the podcast. Next week we will be back talking with Dr. Baron Bell. It's been at least a few months since we talked to the man, you know. Like Dr. Bell's like one of the frequent flyers on our channel at this point, so but he'll be on to talk to us about Dominion Chapter 4. Our last Indie Comic Book Club, we talked about Volume 1 that has chapters 1 to 3, but Chapter 4 is coming out on Kickstarter, I believe it is. Kickstarter or Indiegogo, I can't remember which one. Let me get the link from him. So he's coming on to pitch that and tell us a little bit about it, and with how good the first 3 chapters were, I'm more than happy to give him the spotlight and to hear all about it, man.
Heck yeah, dude.
It's going to be awesome. We also have coming up in 2 weeks' time, we'll be talking about Thor, Love and Thunder. We are going to see it on this Friday, but we'll give everyone a chance to see it and check it out for themselves. Chunk,
I'm getting the last run, and it's Tuesday.
Yep,
I'm so excited.
Yep, and Chunk also, we will be doing that for the Indie Comic Book Club for the end of the year, so if you want to grab it and read it before that comes up, you'll be able to join in the conversation. And then 3 weeks' time, I'm very excited to announce that we're going to be having Lewis Southard back on the channel. Our first ever guest. He's been on a couple of times. It's been a while since we've had Lewis on. But I felt like it was a prominent time to get him on, because I remember the first time we had him on the show and him talking about pitching Goth Cowboys. And now not only
actually in our intro video.
Not only it was in our intro video like back then, and not only has he done Goth Cowboys and done the 5 issues of that, but Midnight Western Theatre, the Goth Cowboys story, is getting turned into a TV show and getting a prequel series showing how Hortensia becomes the woman in black. Dang, so dude. He is going to be coming on to talk. I don't know how much details he can reveal at this time. It's still very early days as far as I'm aware for both those projects. But the opportunity just to talk to him a little bit and get him back on, I'm more than happy to do, because it's been a while since we've talked to the guy, and Lewis is always awesome.
Yeah, super cool, dude.
Apart from the podcast, obviously we'll be doing our usual this week. Jay is of course going to be back on Monday doing some more Nancy Drew. That's been going absolutely well. She continues going through Waverley Academy. I will be back on Tuesday night continuing my playthrough of Horizon Zero Dawn, one of my new favourite games, one of the best games I've ever played. I'm absolutely just engrossed in this world.
That's awesome.
Nitro will be back Thursday night, starting a brand new commission piece. He finished the piece for Chunk the Hut, which if you've not seen it is in our Discord. Go and check it out. It's a phenomenal piece of Aloy, speaking of Horizon, and Tiny Tina from Tiny Tina's Wonderland and Borderlands. And he's going to be starting a brand new piece for our other frequent flyer, Just Me D.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I won't reveal anything until Thursday, but yeah, I'm excited, man.
Absolutely, man. From what you said, it sounds like it's going to be an interesting one. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with that. And then, of course, we won't be back on Friday. We are doing no Sea of Thieves this week because Nitro and I will be heading to the cinema to go watch Thor: Love and Thunder. So we won't be back Friday, but plenty of other stuff going on in the channel to keep you going. So I hope you all have an absolutely amazing week.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go and raid Charwi TV. I think is how you pronounce it. I'm probably butchering that like I do most other names. But we're going to go show her some love. She's doing some just chatting just now, talking about stuff, and I don't think she's family friendly, but we're going to go show her some love, take the opportunity. So please stick around, go say hi to her, drop her a follow if you aren't already. Follow us on our social media, join us on our Discord as Nitro has posted in the chat. And let me do this before I forget, because I always forget. We have our, of course, ambassadors for BCW Supplies, who supply comic boxes, comic bags, and boards, and all the sort of stuff for collection and any other collectible. If you click on that link and use Comic Cross at checkout to save 10% on any of your purchases there. And BCW, you also see the logo just below us there. So want to share that out. Well, I actually remember to do it for once, but we're going to show some love to Charlie. Double check she is still on. Yep, that's what I think. I'm going to go raid and they're just going to disappear. But you all have an absolutely amazing week. Take care, enjoy yourselves, and remember, it is a good week to be a geek, and we will see you all Monday.
Yeah, love you.
Have a good one, folks.